Can everybody hear me? There's some serious lag whenever I move. So like, huh? Gotta get the Paranormal Round Table shirt on. Waiting for some people to join the chat. We always start a little bit late because we give everybody a time to get into the chat room, for the chat room to fill up. So if I can lower this seat. That's how it sounds. There's a bad echo in there like that? No. My wife was eating soup and I took one bite and I got something stuck in my tooth. I swear. Is this as low as this chair goes? Alright. Sorry folks, just trying to get comfortable. I'm here at the house. I'm doing it tonight in Anthony's room here. He set it up in here, so that's what we're doing. Reason being, my wife was in the hospital today. So she went to the hospital in a ambulance, and she just got out. That was this morning, or she just got out this afternoon. She was having severe chest pains and she couldn't breathe, and she gets really bad anxiety, panic attacks, and sometimes it gets to the point where she can't she can't even breathe. But it wasn't a panic attack, everything was fine, and then it just got progressively worse and everything was like okay, and then she couldn't breathe and she was having so much pain that she ended up having to go to the emergency room. So when it rains, it pours. She's home now. They kind of don't keep you unless you got something really, really serious because of COVID. But thank goodness it wasn't super serious. It wasn't her heart. It was an issue with her lung. So she's not feeling real good. So just keep her in your prayers. She's got some health issues. So these are supporters of the show. As always, Ralph Ayu, got Chris Smith, Matthew Durgo, Alexander Murphy, Philip Morn, Curtis Turner, Lou the Good Dude, Chris Clough, Terry Fuselier, Martin Hertel, Barbara Blendy, Earl Bowers, Wendy Page Williams, Joyce Burnett, Dick Richards, Shannon, Patrick Nickerson, Andrea Krask, Rudy Gutierrez, Derek Tribble, Melissa Panay, who, by the way, I'm wearing another one of their shark tooth on a necklace that I had. Don Wells, Desiree Taylor, Guy, just Guy, Russell Nash, Dead Man Walking, and Chronological with a K. Oh, that's interesting. Cool name. Thank you guys for your support of the show. Thank you for everything that you've done and been doing. It's been great. that you guys have turned out every Tuesday for the live streams, and you have shown up on Fridays for the show. I wanted to talk a little bit about the other show that I do with Ryan. I did that on Sunday. Not gonna lie, I was not happy with the finished product. The sound quality was bad. It was very, very bad. And you can hear me just fine, but I sound kind of like I'm a robot in a whale, stuck in a well. And so it's kind of, the audio is kind of rough. But we're going to fix that. We're going to get this done. Because me and Ryan put a lot of hard work and effort into that. And then, you know, it's going to get done. We're going to get it fixed. We're going to take care of it. Titan, thank you for the super chat. John Villafranca, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate everybody's donations here. I'm looking, I'm not even getting to the donations. I'm sorry. Yeah, Dick Richards, I noticed your comment about the Battle of Kiev. Yeah, that is weird. That's definitely a Mandela effect. So, I think it was an editing issue, possibly, with the Whisper to a Scream. So we're going to work. I'm sorry, my eyes. Folks, I have not slept but a few hours. It's been a rough day. Like and subscribe. Thank you. You donated $99. That's awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Ryan and me are, and that's Ryan Tremblay. We are going to get the audio fixed. We're going to have a better. We're going to do better with the audio. We're actually going to get Mushu to do the editing, because Anthony's already doing all the editing for my show and helping me set up the live stream and doing. And he works and he's going to architecture school, so he's got a ton of things on his plate. So we're going to sub it out to my boy Mushu, who's working all the time, but he can do it actually from post. And so with him, Lamp of Light, thank you for your donation. Thank you so much. I appreciate everything.
I think it's showing some like donations from last stream. It's like glitching out or something. I'm just gonna turn it off for now. But the super chats will still pop up over here on the right. But I think some of these are just,
well, they showed up on the screen, so I have to say thank you. If it was from last live stream, thank you for that too. I got a lot of stress, but you know what? Went to the gym and I worked out for like over an hour, just hitting it real hard. That tends to be a way to alleviate a lot of problems for me. Keep me going. Praying, doing the Wim Hof breathing, and going to the gym and working out. So I solve a lot of my issues. Zombie Killer Challenge. Yeah, we need foam on the walls. We have that at our studio. But like I mentioned earlier, we couldn't go to the studio because my wife's in the next room. And she was in the hospital today, so we didn't feel like it was a smart idea to leave her alone. She's not been feeling too well. So, Susie Ford, hey, what's going on? Killer Kano 79. Kayla, you said something last live stream that was freaking funny as heck, and I can't remember what it was, man. I went back and tried to, me and Scorpion were trying to look for it, and I was trying to show him, and I couldn't find it. I can't remember what it was. It says, hey Josh, when a dog man is separated from its pack, does it turn into a rake? Rumor was its Stripes was turning before his death. I don't think Stripes was a rake or what is a rake or was a rake or whatever. I don't believe that. Thank you for the prayers. What I would like to do is probably take the last episode of The Goat Man from Whisper to a Scream and re-edit it and release it on PRT. Ryan would have to be okay with that, so you'd have to let me know what you think about that, Ryan. We haven't actually been able to talk, but the editing will get done correctly, and then we will release the second episode, and we'll just do them back to back, and you guys can listen to them on PRT. Maybe we can do that next Sunday. We'll put both of them on there after they've been re-edited. Unless it's a sound issue. We haven't had a chance to even check that yet to see if maybe it's a sound issue from the equipment that Ryan has, although I know Ryan had upgraded his equipment, and I think it's more of an editing situation. But we'll see what we can do, and we'll get it going, don't worry. Anna Choate, thank you for offering to do our my fan page. I am going to accept that offer if you're still willing to do it. I was looking for somebody to do it, and I literally only had 2 or maybe 3 people step up. Vincent Richardson, the good guy, I was talking to him about it, but apparently he's doing work for Lon Strickler, so he's a very busy guy. Things are rough, but the good thing about it is that we have we have plenty of work. I mean, my job is just, we've been slammed, but it's been to the point where this past weekend I was running around just crisscrossing Austin, put about 100 miles on my wife's vehicle, crisscrossing Austin for our job, and so that was yeah. It was all in one night. My friend Mike Tooley, who's one of my brothers, I don't know if anybody knows, I consider him one of my brothers, was complaining about chest pains and tried to finish his shift. I went up there to get him relieved on Sunday morning, and he ended up going into the ER. They had him on a ventilator until this morning. I spoke to him a couple of hours before my wife went to the hospital, and he was able to speak, which is good news, and they took him off of the ventilator. It's not COVID related, it is withdrawals from alcohol. He's trying to stop drinking, and it's a very dangerous thing when you try to stop on your own, and I'm going to keep praying for him, and I'm going to go visit him. And I'm going to make sure that he goes into rehab and gets the help he needs. A very old friend of mine, 25 years. He's Irish and Sicilian, so he's very hard-headed, and he's a tough guy. And I'm one of the only people that can lay the smack down on him and make him act right. So I'm going to have to probably do that. I'm force him to go to rehab where he needs to be. But it's a valiant effort that he was trying to quit, but it's one of those things where you try to just quit, it can kill you, and so that's what's going on with that. That's one of my friends. It was close, man. When they had him in the ambulance, he was shaking so bad, and he was having such bad tremors, and his blood pressure was extremely elevated. Just like it was the night before when I had gone out there to see him, and he was doing good on Friday. He seemed to be doing okay. He was in good spirits, and he was he was doing fine, but it got worse Saturday. Alfredo Giovanni, you say, I wish I had a beer. Drinking a beer once in a while is one thing, but becoming dependent on any substance is not a good thing. So, I'm sitting here trying to do this, and I'm getting messages from work. Folks, that cold snap, just, you got plumbers and security working themselves to death. It's crazy. I mean, it's like plumbers giving people 30 days, like, I'll be there, we won't be able to get to your problem for 30 days. It's crazy. Which is leading to fire watches, because a lot of people's waters are still shut off, and then you have to have someone there to do the security. That's where we come in. Finish this real quick, guys. I am going to have a guest on tonight in about 30 minutes. It says here, my ex-girlfriend had to quit alcohol. It's why she's my ex. She went completely insane, mentally and physically. Sadly, a dry drunk is not a good thing. That's something I've heard a lot. I've never been with an alcoholic, thank goodness, and I've never been one. I've never been like, I used to drink, not a lot, but I used to drink, on the weekends, go out and raise heck and do whatever. But I can understand having been around drunks, a lot of them in my life. They can be really unpleasant. Truly wasn't like that, or isn't like that. He's not an unpleasant person to be around, whether he's drinking or trying to come off of drinking. It's he's a good guy, and he tries to do the right thing, and he's been trying for a long time to battle his demons, and he's just gonna have to. It's gonna take a lot of work. And he's going to get through it because he's a tough guy. I've known him for years. He's a very tough guy, and I know he'll get through it. So his buddy showed me a video on a show called Strange Evidence. We said it was a skinwalker, but it looked like a black dog man on 2 feet for half the video and takes off on all fours. How do you know? I mean, I've had people here lately like send me stories, and they're like, this was a dog man. This was not a werewolf. This was a skinwalker. It was not a dog man. Like, how do you know? I mean, like, I'm no expert, and nobody is, but, how do you know what that is? I don't know what they are. I mean, you can't, the one I saw, I can say it was a dog man, but according to whose description are we talking about? You got people saying things are werewolves and saying things are dogmen. Now, there is an encounter that Carrie Eaton's going to discuss on Friday on the show, and on that encounter, you can kind of deduce that I would say this was a werewolf. And you hear about it on Friday if you tune into the show on Friday. She talks about it, and it's like, okay, that sounds like that's a werewolf. I would say that's a werewolf. But for the most part, like, how do you know whether it's a skinwalker or a dogman or a werewolf? And there's also there seems to be this thing where if it does something malicious or malevolent, then it's it's a werewolf or a skinwalker, but if it just sits there and looks at you and then runs away, then it's a benevolent dogman. Dogman's kind of getting a reputation around the field as not a bad guy. Doesn't do anything bad. Okay. Says prayers and positive vibes for you and Nelly. Thank you so much for your donation, James Estrada and John Villafranca. Atlanta, Austin. My dad said a man told him that back in the 80s, one of his farmhands quit because he saw a werewolf stealing a couple of hogs. Scared him so bad he almost had a breakdown. The whole story is creepy. You could give me that story. That'd be really cool. And we could retell it. Great. Okay. Wendy, are there more of these canine cryptids now, or are we just hearing about them now? What is your opinion? Honestly, I don't know what my opinion is on that. I mean, I think that they've always been around. I mean, there's stories going back centuries of these things. But I think we're just starting to hear about them more and see them more because people are starting to focus on them and they're starting to become like a real thing, you know, where people were just kind of like poo-poo the idea, you know, like, oh, you're seeing a werewolf, you know, and it's silly. Now you have all these people coming forward talking about, yeah, these things are real. I've seen them, you know. Clever Conquistador, don't worry about this. You're not going to get attacked. Well, I can't guarantee it, but you probably won't get attacked by a dog man. You might get attacked by homeless people. Somebody messaged me too. Let me go back. Before I go any further, my email address is joshturner@prtpodcast.com, joshturner@prtpodcast.com. Send me your stories. We're still doing the contest. I'm getting submissions for the Chupacabra. I've got probably 8 or 9 right now. I'd like to get some more. I want as many people to enter and try and as possible, because even if you don't win, it's cool to look at your art, and take a look at it. It's all cool, Hello from Fort Worth. Well, hello from Austin. I like Fort Worth. It's my 3rd favorite city in Texas, behind San Antonio. I think the two most boring cities in Texas are actually Dallas and Houston. I kind of prefer Houston over Dallas, but I think that they're both kind of boring. Like, there's more stuff to do, like in Arlington, and it's in between Dallas and Fort Worth, and there's cool stuff to do in Fort Worth, and there's a lot of cool stuff to do in Austin and in San Antonio. But Houston, like Dallas, is just boring. There's really not a lot there. I mean, it's just a big city, and it's just kind of, I don't know. I mean, it was kind of boring to me. There's not like a whole, like, there's a tower to go check out. You know, there's medieval times. And then in Houston, there's like museums and there's a few things. But I don't know. The Astros are, you know, it's cool to go watch sporting events. But with COVID, there's like really, without the sporting events, there ain't nothing. I go watch the Astros every year. Until last year, I would go watch them like several times a year. But man, I used to watch the Rangers when they were, you know, had a little bit of a team. Hi, Josh. Much love from Scotland. Nice to meet you. Anyways, I wanted to cover something. Some people were kind of going over some stuff with me, asking me questions. I guess I was accused of bagging on certain people last weekend. It's not in a bad way, because nobody really complained about it. The people were asking me if I was talking about Vic. I was talking about Vic at one point, Vic Kunda. But I wasn't like disparaging him. I do believe that he believes that he's trying to help people. But I'm not attacking him. I don't really think, you know, and I may, you know, it may be something controversial for me to say this, but I don't really think that us just talking to these people and getting stories from them or having them tell their stories is really some sort of therapy. But what I'm getting at is certain people trying to imitate Vic and actually saying like, oh, we're helping people. I'm going to their place and checking out their, and it helps them, you know. Like this one dinglehead that I've talked about before, the Dogman Whisperer from Wisconsin. You're full of crap, dude. You're not helping anybody. Like, how are you helping people? I don't get how you're helping people. Supposedly he's removed over 200 dogmen or something from somebody. He's told people that from different properties. He's helped all these people. So, I mean, if that's what you believe, bro, I mean, you know, it sounds kind of silly to me. I mean, but if that's what you believe, and I'm not talking about Vic, you know, I'm not saying Vic goes and removes dogmen from people's properties, because he's never, you know. I think also the people were comparing my style to Vic's style, and it's two totally different things. Vic doesn't really have discussions with people on his show. What Vic does is just listens to people and they tell the story, and then he puts them on the show and lets them tell the story. I think it started out as, for Vic, and this is my opinion, it's very loud, so I think it started out as and this is my opinion, that he was actually doing it because it was something that he was interested in. In fact, I know it was because he was interested in it, and he had heard people talking about these Bigfoot that had like snouts, and he was into the whole Bigfoot thing, and it was Baron Kumbo talking about dog face boogers, and so it intrigued him, and so Vic wanted to know what that was, and so that's how it started with him. Is just what he's said publicly, and he's told me. You know, but it turned into, you know, him, you know, getting a show and putting it together. And at one point, and I'm telling you the backstory here, he was trying to do the show with Linda Godfrey. and that didn't work out. She was like, I'm going to write my books and do what I'm going to do. So Vic did what he was going to do. And so there started to be kind of a rift there at one point, and Vic's a nice guy, but he does feud with people, but he doesn't publicize it. He doesn't come out and publicly say it. I don't think I will be doing much work with him in the future. But in Alina Garul, I did not miss thank you for your donation. I saw you on there. And this is something that I keep getting asked about. Am I going to go back on the Dogman Encounters? It says here, big fan, love the show. Thanks for doing it. Much love from New Mexico. It's nothing personal against Vic. I think we'll always be friends. I like Vic, and when somebody does something for me, I always appreciate it, and I don't backstab people. I don't like his support of a particular person that's been on his show a lot, and I'm sure you can deduce who that is, because I think that person is not on the up and up. And the more I look into it, the more it just doesn't add up. I mean, so that I don't want to be on a show. I don't want to go and take my material somewhere where that guy's doing stuff, because that guy's he's not correct. And so I don't. Exactly the question marks. Why does he keep having him on? I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. Clever Conquistador, me and the fam are tuned in on the living room TV and always tune in on Fridays. Hope this helps a bit, and thank you for your craft stories of craft. Thank you so much for your support. Cool nickname too. Awakened Empire, thank you for your donation. Appreciate it. Anyways, there's nothing personal against me and Vic. I'm not going to ever sit up here and disparage him. He's got a huge following for a reason, because he's put a lot of people on the air, but this little dude that he's been, going on his show, he's been coming on his show, and it's back and forth all the time. It's fake, dude. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, like, I retell people's stories, but I try to get it correct. And if they tell you something and it's, whatever, I mean, it is what it is, but it just doesn't, I mean, like, his retelling of it has been called out multiple times. And then he continues to, like, promote this person. And that's another thing, too. I have asked Vic for help with promoting on multiple occasions, and not real interested in that. He says that if he did that, he would have to help all these other people that have gotten shows from him, which I don't see a whole lot of them that got shows from him. Other than that little guy. And so he eventually did promote the Hernandez Ranch episode, but long after it already aired, which kind of irked me, because it does feed back into his show, and it also, I mean, it's got hundreds of thousands of views. Like, I think one of those is like 127,000 views or something like that. The last time I checked, I'm not getting anything from that, and so. It says, who is it that Vic keeps having on? Anyone? Just, it's right there below you. Somebody just mentioned it. Just read it. Claire Ellis. Why are you in my chat room? First of all, we're not friends, and you don't like me, and we're not. You're just somebody who wants to come on and promote Vic. I mean, promote Marvin, and I'm not complaining about Vic. I think I know Vic a little better than you do, woman. So if somebody could kick her, please, and don't allow her back in my chat room. We've had enough of your cyber crap. Don't return, please. Every time you come on my show, you're promoting your buddy. And then you said again, like I'm complaining about Vic again. I'm not complaining about Vic. I didn't even complain about him before. I'm just giving people the reasons because everybody keeps asking me and I'm telling them because I have a fan base and I like to tell them what's going on. Is that so wrong? Titan says, Josh, is there ever a time on honesty is not the best policy? That's in part why we pack with you. We always know where you stand. Blessings on you and yours, bro. Blessings to you too, Titan. Thank you for your donation. You're always a supporter of the show. I'm just trying to be honest. Would you like me to sit up here and mealy mouth and lie? I mean, that's what a lot of people do. I think that's why a lot of people listen to my show because I tell it like it is. I'm going to choose to do my work and you know, I'm not going to go on Vic's show. It doesn't mean we'd have to be friends. We're not going to be friends. But the 300th episode will probably, I can tell you right now, that's the last time I will go on his show. If Vic ever wants to come on my show and talk, that's fine. But we've already pretty much gone over and talked about whatever there is to talk about. I mean, what else is there to go over and talk about? I mean, we've already talked about what we're going to talk about. So, I don't even know how that person got back in the chat. She was supposed to have been kicked out when she was promoting her boyfriend before. So, and in fact, Claire, if you're listening, I encourage you to go back and tell your buddy and tell him to watch the show. If he wants to go on another tirade about me and give me free press, then by all means, go ahead. And I live in Austin. If he's ever in town and he wants to beat me up, oh no, please don't do it. Don't hurt me. I'm afraid my fists are quite operational. It says, I debunked Brandon Close on Dogman 190 years ago. King Dark Honda. I think that's another one. You know, there were some other people that were on there that were questionable, and I'm going like, what is this? You know, like, I mean, I don't listen to the episodes unless somebody, this is the truth, guys, okay? I'm going to tell you the truth. If somebody sends me a link or says, hey, Wolf, check out this, you know, show, and my good friends in cyberspace will say, hey, you know, check it out, or one of my team members, and then I'll go and I'll look and I'll check it out. Then I look at the show and I'm going like, what, you know, what is this madness? Madness. This is Dogman Encounters. Yeah. But there's a lot of good stuff too. 117, episode 117, that one rocked, dude. I like that episode. That was a good one. You could, you know, there's people that come on there and you can actually tell that, you know, they're genuine, and there's some good stuff on there. I mean, there's some gems on that show. If you go back and listen, I've listened to probably 20 episodes and it's about 50-50 for me. But a lot of them, dude, I know it's hard. You know, you got to understand too, for Vic, it's hard because he's got to try to get a guest on there every week, and then he's had trouble lately with people like just being charlatans and liars and whatever and not getting money. So then but my problem was that to replace that, you bring another one on that I've already told you, we've already talked about this. I'm not going to take my work somewhere where that guy is doing what he's doing because it sounds embarrassing to me. It just doesn't sit well with me, and and so that's my thing. And I've been bombarded with messages asking me about his show lately. Like a lot of messages, a lot of people asking me questions about it. Where do I stand? A lot of people are disgruntled, kind of upset, and kind of feel like that he's not putting out the best that he can, not doing the best, putting out the best product or whatever. And I can't. I don't know, how do you say it? Like, I can't support something that I don't believe in. You know what I mean? Like, I can't sit here and go, yeah, that's a good show, go check it out. Because I don't really believe in some of the stuff that's going on. So I can't, if I don't feel comfortable with something and the integrity of it is not there, then and like I said, please don't take this the wrong way, Vic, because I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about some of the people that have gone on there. That's another thing too. Or what does it say? Cursed or what? So honestly, I'd hope things aren't so prevalent that there's so many witnesses to supply Vic and other shows with weekly new guests all the time. Yeah, that's another thing. Like, is there really that many encounters? I guess there is. Jody and Nick and those guys, Nick Valente, they're getting like tons of reports, as have I. We're all getting a lot of reports on a weekly basis, just, people telling you, but I don't think it's enough to where I could put a guest on every week, It says Brandon Close's neighbor is Eugene Moretti, and Gene was a drama teacher at a Christian school 30 miles east of Cato, New York. Eugene and Brandon wrote a script and rehearsed it. Christian Arredondo is a good point. I have a completely different style than Vic. Vic brings on people, he lets them talk, and in my opinion, ramble a lot of times. They say all kinds of crazy stuff, and it just, that's not my style. I don't do things that way. He has his style and I have mine, and my style is to talk. And people say, well, you talk too much, and what is this, the Josh Turner show? And then, yeah, it is. It is my show, and it's my channel. I'm going to do what I want. I could roll around the floor like a dog if I want to. And I'm not going to. I'm not itching right now. But maybe later, we'll see what happens. I'm sorry, folks, my throat is killing me. Too much talking. So, thank you for the donation. $10 donation, John Bellafranca. The Cabela Skinwalker story will probably have to wait because we thought about it, and I think we're going to add it into a Skinwalker episode. But I don't know for sure. Titan says, Josh, did you say you were going to follow up on that nasty leprechaun in the girl's closet? They don't live in that house anymore. And I've talked to that person that was... She was a kid back then. Now she's grown up, but she had nightmares for years about that. 50% of Vic's guests are full of maybe, I don't know. I cannot listen to it anymore. Josh, how much you bench? You mentioned you used to power lift. Thanks for streaming. In front of about half a dozen people, all but one are still alive. The most I ever lifted was 660, but I had lifted 585 prior to that, and so I always thought that I could have got more than that. I just never went back and maxed out, because you could tear rotator cuffs, you can hurt yourself. There's a lot of things that could happen when you're trying to lift that much weight. Okay, guys, we're gonna call our guest. We're gonna get it going here. We're gonna blow it up. We're gonna blow it up, son. Let me hurry up and finish this.
Oh, this is David.
Hey, David.
Hey, man. How's it going?
What's going on? It's Wolf.
Yeah, I recognize you.
Okay. Didn't know if you...
You having a good day?
Do what?
I said, you having a good night?
I am now that you're on the phone. Folks, this is David Weatherly. I got him on my live stream, and I've been trying to do this publicly for a while. David, before we get started, I wanted to personally apologize to you, because of all the interviews I did, I felt like I was really excited to talk to you, because I really liked. I'm a big fan of your work, and so I felt like I talked too much, especially in the second part of that, because I had so many questions for you.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, I got chastised heavily. They were like, "Well, you talk too much, and David didn't get to say all the things you wanted to say." And if that's the case, then I apologize, and you can always come back on the show and talk away, and I will just mute myself.
Yeah, it's not a problem, man.
Yeah. So we've been talking recently. You have a new book.
I do. I have one that just came out. I can't even remember. It's been mid-February is when it came out, so it's coming up on a month now, and it is part of the Cryptid States series that I've been doing. It's Monsters of the Tar Heel State.
Yep.
And it's Cryptids and Legends of North Carolina. I had to stop and think for a minute there which one you were referring to, because I've actually had another one released since then that is Haunted Prisons, that I co-wrote with a good friend of mine, Ross Allison. But I think the one you're mentioning is the Cryptid book. And that one has a beautiful cover by Sam Sheeran of the Beast of Bladenboro. And if you're familiar with the other ones in the series, I cover a wide range of cryptids from the state. Of course, there's hefty section on Bigfoot, but also lots of lesser-known creatures, too.
Yeah. Yeah, because you had creatures from the Silver State, and then, of course, you came on and we talked about the Alaskan cryptids, which was one of my favorites. That was a good one, because Alaska's a very interesting place with a lot of weird stuff. And you were on the show. You are writing a book. You're covering all the. Are you going to try and cover all the 50 states? Is that?
That's the goal. I'm asked about that all the time, and of course, people commonly say, when are you going to get to, fill in the blank, whatever their state is, their home state, or their the one they're most interested in, or whatever. But I got 5 out so far, so this is 10%, which it's a good start. And of course, people don't stop and think that there's a lot of work that goes into these, a lot of research, and of course all the writing and everything. Fortunately, I have such a massive collection of files and everything from over the years that a good bit of the material, the research material and everything I've already done. And I've investigated in every state, so I have that to my benefit. But it's just a matter of getting enough time to actually get them done. I stay pretty busy with a lot of different projects. But I will say that there's already another one finished. I'm not mentioning what it is yet, but you'll see the cover debut probably next month.
Dang it, and you're not going to tell us what it is.
I am not.
Okay. All right. Well, darn it. Okay, so I guess I have to stalk you then. That's great. All right. So, David, you here's my big question for you. Here's one that I've been wanting to know. Like, when you do the book about Texas, is it you got to have more than one volume? It's got to be like at least 2 volumes. I mean, Texas has got a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, I know it does. That's a tough one. And the thing is that, of course, the first one was Nevada, and it was smaller, than some of the following editions. I was able to cover everything. Nevada is, of course, a lot of people didn't even believe there were any cryptid sightings in Nevada.
Wow.
But there certainly are enough, obviously, to have done a whole book. And, Arizona, I pretty much was able to cover everything. But, man, when I did Alaska, I really had to kind of focus it down. I mean, you could easily do several volumes just on Sasquatch in Alaska. So what I did for that was I gave a real, what I think is a solid overview and, sort of Sasquatch through the decades in that state. And I followed the same format for Indiana, which was the state after that. Which was also a pretty hefty book. And one of the reasons those came out pretty big was because there's so much about the other cryptids. It's not just Sasquatch, but a lot of these other stories that no one has really addressed completely, or at least not very often. So, for Indiana, I had the Beast of Busco, the giant turtle, Oscar. Mm-hmm. And for North Carolina, I've got the Beast of Bladenboro, which is a pretty cool story. But it's kind of, it's been in the back of my mind what to do with a couple of these states, Texas, California. There's so much, the states are so large, and there is so much that, honestly, I'm just not sure what approach I'll take yet on doing those. I kind of hate to split them up in a sense because, a place like Texas, it's a big state, but it's kind of cohesive, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
If you're from Texas, it's Texan. California, I think, would be a little bit easier because there's kind of a little bit more of a difference between the northern and southern portions of the state. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, California, you can kind of divide it between north and south. Texas has, east, west, north, south, central. It's all.
Yeah.
I mean,
how do you really do that?
Yeah. Well. We live in Central Texas, both of us. So I think we just need to cover Central Texas, and that's it. But no, seriously though. I mean, your books are always a compelling and exciting to read. I enjoyed reading that book a lot. The last one you did, the haunted prison ones. We actually did an episode about paranormal prison stories, and. So I'm a little aggravated that you didn't consult me on that, David. But I'm gonna let that slide. That's okay. I'll forgive you. So that's that book. You just released another book since February. You released the Tar Heel State book, and then you released the paranormal haunted prisons.
Haunted
prisons. Man, that's crazy. So now I got some catching up to do. And folks, I am going to choose somebody tonight. From the live stream. and I'm going to be giving away a David Weatherly book. I don't know which one yet. I'm getting a shipment of books from you, David. But I'm going to be giving away one of David's books. And definitely, folks, I strongly suggest you go out and check out David's catalog of books. He's got a lot of them. The Black Eyed Kids, of course. Here's funny. The last time you were on the show, we kind of touched on the Black Eyed Kids, and you said that it was kind of like Freebird, you know?
Yeah.
It was like, okay, play Freebird because you're known now, and it's not unfortunate, but like it's kind of like you're known as the Black Eyed Kids guy because you did such a good job on that it kind of stuck. It's like, so whenever someone talks about David Weatherly, they're like, oh, you mean the Black Eyed Kids guy? And I'm always telling people, I was like, dude, this guy has like a huge, plethora of knowledge about a lot of different subjects, and that was one thing he did. Okay, one thing. But that's kind of stuck with you as like, oh, David Weatherly, he's the Black Eyed Kids guy. And I have literally not too long ago, okay, I was hanging out with some friends, and I actually got almost in an argument with someone. Like, I literally started getting aggravated because that's all this guy's girlfriend was just like, well, I don't know anything about it. I just know about the Black Eyed Kids. And I'm like, okay, but I'm telling you about it, and you're not listening. You just keep talking about that. And I'm like, she's like, well, do you have his other books? I'm like, yeah, but they're signed copies, and I'm not giving them to you to borrow. And then she's like, well, I just remember the Black Eyed Kid. And I'm going like, okay, you're really starting to aggravate me. I just at that point was like, okay, this is a pointless conversation. I get that you know him as that, but he's got a lot of other work out there, and I'm suggesting to you to go and check it out, and it's just like, everybody has, I guess, their niche or what they're known for. It's like me with the Paranormal Round Table. It's like everybody's like, oh, Dogman, and it's like I have a million other things that I talk about, and and for you, it was, it was kind of like
I think it's starting to change some. The Cryptid State series has caught a lot of attention, and interesting enough, the Alaska book was the one that really seemed to grab people the most. And I get so many questions about that book. And I think it's for a number of reasons. Again, it's something that no one had really done. There weren't any books about all the various cryptids in Alaska out there. And, it's such a kind of mysterious and compelling place, even for people who haven't been there before. It just has such a unique quality about it. And it really is kind of the last frontier in a sense. So that one has just sparked a lot of interest. And of course it brought attention to the other books that came before and after it too. So, finally, shook the Freebird thing a bit, I think.
Yeah, I think that the whole Freebird thing was like just an analogy that made a lot of sense because that's what that became kind of like your niche or whatever, and when like I said, I've told people, look, there's a lot of good material out there. I'm doing a second podcast with a guy named Ryan Tremblay, and it's called The Whisper to a Scream. And the first episode we did, we're on our fourth or fifth episode. It comes out on Sundays, but the first episode we did was the Gugwe, and in that episode, we talked about the Port Chatham thing. I believe it was you know what? It might have been the Genoa. It was one of those two shows, and we talked about Port Chatham, and I thought that was a very interesting thing. And when I read your book, that's what intrigued me. I was like, I had kind of glanced over the story before, but in your book you talk about it and you touched on it, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do a lot more looking into this. And so Ryan took over the research for that, and it's a very interesting and intriguing story. And if anybody has any that wants to get books, you want to buy some books, David Weatherly is your guy. I'm telling you right now. I think you and Ken and Lyle and Nick and Redfern, because you're all in Texas. I'm biased, but I believe that you guys' books are awesome. And that's not to leave out guys like Chad Lewis and Linda Godfrey and Lon and everybody, but just y'all are my Texas peeps, so I got to represent. And but you can't give us any clue, hint at all about what the next state would be.
No, gotta keep tight-lipped on that one for the moment. So, like I said, sometime next month you'll probably see the cover.
Cool, and it's going to be the same artist that did the other covers.
Yes, that's correct. Sam Sheeran is the artist, and he he came in and did Strange Intruders when I wrote it, and since then he's done a lot of my covers. He's done the Wood Knot series, but he's also been doing this Cryptid State series, and his schedule is crazy busy too. But he and I have had discussions, and we both hope that he'll be able to do the entire collection if I get through all 50 states. We're hoping that he is able to paint all of the covers, just partially because of consistency, and I hope he can because he's just such a good artist. And usually with these cover concepts, if you look at the previous covers, what I do is pick a cryptid from the state that's somewhat distinctive, or maybe there's a very particular story associated with that cryptid, with that in that state. For instance, the Arizona book. There's a depiction of the thunderbirds on the front, and there's a amazing story out of Tombstone, Arizona, about the thunderbird sighting, and a famous photograph that many people remember seeing of a thunderbird. So there's a whole involved story with that. So I try to pick these cryptids, something other than Sasquatch to go on the front cover to represent the state, and it's worked out pretty good so far.
David, let me ask you this question now. Okay, it may be a little bit loaded here, but what is your opinion on that picture?
I remember seeing it
mm-hmm.
when I was young, and I remember talking to. I knew John Keel. I remember talking to Keel about it, who had memory of it. It's a very curious story. That absolutely is. And for those not familiar with it, the short version is that there are a significant number of people who remember seeing a photograph of a thunderbird that, and we're talking about the sort of prehistoric version of this giant bird that some old cowboys had killed and had on the side of this barn. The photograph in short, no one has ever been able to locate it. Although in most people's memories, they recall seeing it in one of the men's magazines that were popular in from the 50s to the mid 70s. And I'm not talking about, like Playboy and stuff like that, but these other magazines that came out during that period were all kind of geared towards adventurous. They would tell a lot of Western stories and war stories, true accounts, so all kinds of things like this. And they typically had titles, for men only, or, men's adventure and things like this. And there were just dozens and dozens of these things that came out during that period. But as I stated, no one has ever been able to locate a copy of the photograph in a magazine or in archives or anything else. But it's significant the number of people that recall, that have a very vivid memory of seeing it. And of course, now in recent years, it's sort of been linked to this whole possible Mandela effect. Mm-hmm. People have a differing memory of things and so forth. I don't know. I talked about in Copper State Monsters, I talked about the photograph, and I talked about my memory of seeing it, and of course told the entire story. It certainly is a puzzle, and in some ways it's more of a puzzle than the idea of prehistoric birds still surviving by some chance. But I don't know. I'm, like a lot of other people, I keep hoping that suddenly somebody will just turn up with it. And, sadly over the years, of course, people have tried to make, photoshopped or fake copies and so forth. And it was recreated for a show at one point. So there's a few photographs out there that kind of look like it, but the genuine article has not showed up yet.
And I want to ask another question about your personal opinion on that with the whole Mandela effect. That is something that I'm like you. I remember a picture. I remember the photo. And
you saw it too?
Yes, and I remember seeing this, and I remember and I can't remember if I first saw it. Was it like Fate magazine or something? There was some kind of picture I saw that was a long time ago. I remember seeing it, and I remember. When I was a kid, I wasn't like super interested in monsters or anything like that until I had my encounter with what I think was a dogman. But I did have like a book. I think it was Daniel Cohen, and it was a monsters. It was about monsters or something. And I think that was the only monster book I ever had or ever read. And then I had a friend of mine who was my neighbor, and his dad had a huge collection of Fate magazines. Because Fate magazine, they used to be like the smaller ones, and then they went bigger, and then they went to small again or whatever. It was like a digest, and he had a bunch of them. We'd sit there and read them and look at them, and his dad was cool. He was just like, yeah, if you want to look, take them, read them, whatever. So those are the only like Fortean type things I remember like having very much interest in as a kid, and I just remember seeing a picture. And I can't tell you if it was in one of those magazines or if it was like, in some other magazine that I might have had or something. But I remember seeing that picture, and then everybody's all like, because, this Mandela effect thing is weird. I mean, it's very weird. You got, okay, like, for example, me and my wife were talking to a friend of ours a couple days ago about the Lindbergh baby. And in the way I remember it was the Lindbergh baby was never found, and they never found, and now it's like, oh well, we know that these people did it, and I'm going like, this is weird. Like I don't remember the Lindbergh baby being found. I just have this weird memory of that, and a lot of people are like, no, that's not correct. That's whatever. So there's this argument, right. So the Mandela effect, I keep getting asked by my listeners, like constantly bombarded with, can you do a show about the Mandela effect? And I'm kind of like you are with doing a book about Texas, because it's like there's so much of it. It's so vast. I mean, it's like I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know. You could start a series on it, I mean, But, it's like David Paulides, saying that, tackling Texas, talking about what you were saying with Texas, that would be a book unto itself. Like it has to be, I remember, when he was talking about doing it, it was like, well, I'm gonna have to write a book that's just about Texas disappearances, because it's so vast, and there's so many people that go missing in the Lone Star State that you can't. It's mind-boggling. So, he did one on the eastern United States, one on the western United States. Well, Texas is going to be an entity unto itself, just like when you did the Cryptids book or whatever. And feel free to go through any of my stories I got from Texas. I do a lot of research on cryptids here in Texas, and I'd be willing to help you with, if you need anything on that front. But
I appreciate that. Yeah, the Thunderbird thing, it's a good example actually of this whole Mandela effect concept, because you sort of, when you delve into all the things about the photograph, it really is a plunge down the rabbit hole, because there are just so many different people who have distinctive memories about it. I mentioned Keel earlier, and I mean, he specifically remembered seeing the photograph. Ivan Sanderson, a very well-known cryptozoologist, recalled seeing it. And in fact, there's a crazy story about Ivan Sanderson, because he recalled, someone recalled seeing Ivan Sanderson show a copy of the photograph on a Canadian television show. And it was the Pierre Benton show. It was a talk show. So what's weird about that is that the archives of that show, they know what date Sanderson was on, what particular episode, is being talked about, but the archives don't have that show. The show is missing.
Wow.
So, there was a show, but for some reason it's not in the archives, even though, ones before and after it are. So there are just these bizarre things that crop up with this story. And of course, as it's gone on through the years, other things have come in to, say, well, it could be this or it could be that. But again, there's no definitive explanation for exactly what happened. I think it's one of the earliest examples, actually, probably of this Mandela effect when you look at it, because this goes back a lot of years that people were talking about this photograph. And you mentioned Fate Magazine earlier. Fate Magazine, they, curiously, they thought that they had published the photograph. And when it became so controversial, of course, they went back through their archives and everything and were unable to find any evidence of having published it themselves.
Oh my gosh. Okay, thank you for telling me that, because I kept telling people that's where I thought I'd seen it, was Fate Magazine. And I can't remember who I was talking to about that the other day. It might have been Ken, I don't know. But we were talking about that whole, and it was just so weird. Like how, I'm glad to hear you say that, because that makes me feel like I'm not crazy. Because I kept telling people, like, it's in Fate Magazine. Like, that's where I saw it. And
well, it's not there now. Now I can tell you that because I have a full run of Fate and I've looked for it, which was a very long process, and it's not there. So it's one of these strange things. Again, people have these distinctive memories, but if we kind of come full circle, to this Mandela effect that we were talking about, then really, it doesn't provide an answer, because how do you explain that? There's so many things that people are having differing memories about. And I mean, we could talk about that all night. And as you said, that's a very complex idea, because there are so many potentials to explain exactly what that is.
Yeah,
it's been suggested that it's, alternate universes, different types of effects on people's consciousness. And yeah, that's a real plunge in a different direction to start talking about that.
Yeah, we would definitely go off on a tangent. The thing is, I think it's something that affects all of us, and it's really. I've had some weird experiences with the Mandela effect. I personally think that, that people who don't, that never experience it, it's like maybe you're not paying attention, because there's some weird stuff that happens, and I'm going like, I mean, just a quick overview here, folks that are listening. I'm not gonna get into this because this is a story I want to talk about when I have people that were there. But I had a friend whose dad died, and several of us went to a bar and drank with him the night after. We're trying to console him, and he since moved to California to take a job at a major company, and they're coming to Austin, so I think he's returning. But we all remember his dad passing away and us having a drink with him at my friend's bar. This was several years ago. And then I see on Facebook that his dad had died, and I'm going like, what? Like, that one, I can't even begin to talk to half a dozen people that all remember the same thing. And then one of the people remembers us going downtown to celebrate him being in town for his birthday, and I was like, no, his dad passed away. And I'm just like, but everyone else remembers what I remember, and I'm thinking, like, I know I'm not crazy.
Right.
I mean, another one was, I know what me and Kim were talking about, the show with Leonard Nimoy. He was a big fan of In Search of.
Mm-hmm.
In Search of. And so, and actually for Christmas, I surprised him, and I got him that box set, and I sent it to him for Christmas, and we we're talking about it, and I just remember Leonard Nimoy having died. I mean, he died recently, but I remember him passing away, and my brother and me were talking about it to a friend of ours, and my brother was like, well, Leonard Nimoy, you know, he's deceased, and this guy was like, no, he's not. And we were like, I kind of stayed out of it because it wasn't 100%, but I thought I remember him passing away. My brother was convinced he was, and then this other person was like, no, he's still alive. And then recently they announced that he had passed away. And I just remember, and I haven't seen a lot of episodes of In Search Of, but it was something that was brought up, like on the news or whatever, that he was, you know, Spock, and that he was, you know, in search of. And so that was a weird thing, but that's what it was. But it was just a... when you hear about somebody passing away and then you're like, oh, that's sad, and then 2 years later you're like, they just passed away, and you're like, what?
You know, it's kind of awkward, huh?
Yeah, and and then you start to your brain is going like, what is going on with my mind? I know, David, guys like us are weird anyway.
Right.
By the normal standards of society, we're a couple of weird guys because we're into some, you write about weird stuff, I talk about weird stuff, but I mean, so I mean, it makes sense that we'd be talking about this, but it happens to a lot of people. Like, it literally, there are athletes who remember, doing things and it didn't happen that way. Actors, I mean, it happens to a lot of people. A lot of people are kind of freaking out about the whole Mandela effect thing. And I guess that brings me to a question for you. Are you have any plans on writing anything about that, or is it just too much of a...
I've been asked about that a few times, but not on the table currently.
Yeah.
However, I can say that I plan out quite a few books ahead of time. So, I already have quite a number on my plate this year to wrap up. And beyond that, who knows? Maybe so.
Yeah. Yeah. So, David, I know that I don't want to keep you too long. If you got to run, that's totally fine, or you can stay and talk. It's up to you. I don't want to keep you, though. I know you're a very busy guy. I know you were doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, got a few more, so we can do to like quarter after.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I had another question. Here's another question for you, and for some of the things that were asked for me to ask about from the last time you were on the show. And I really, like I said, I want to apologize again to everyone that listened. I even had my long time fans that were like, diehard fans, and they were just like, man, you talk too much on there, and I was like, I was excited to talk to David Weatherly, and but and because I'm a big fan of your work, and I've been reading your books, and so one of the things I was going to ask is on this new book, the Tar Heels, which is the North Carolina, because I haven't read the book, okay, but I want to know, like, is it, because I mean, like, when you did your research on it, did you get a ton of stories, like did you find stories about black cats? Because that seems to be like a big one that comes up in North Carolina a lot.
Oh yes. Oh yes. There's so many of those accounts there. Again, that could be a whole book in and of itself. And of course, these are kind of, I think they're fascinating, and they're one of those things that it kind of gives me a chuckle because so many people see them and report them to authorities, and it drives the wildlife officials up the wall because they immediately start oh no, there's one, there's no such thing as a black panther. Two, there's no big cats like that in North Carolina. I found this in other states too, but in North Carolina, I found some particularly interesting cases because there are so many outdoorsmen, hunters, fishermen, people that have just hiked for years and really know the wildlife in their region. And you sit down with a guy who is a lifelong hunter and has seen every kind of wildlife you can imagine in the state, and suddenly 40 some years later, he sees a black panther march across his trail. He knows what he's talking about. He can give you an incredibly good description. He knows what he saw. And of course, there's so many times that the skeptics will just try to shut this down and say, well, no, it was, it's a house cat, which is one of the most absurd ones, or it was a dog, or it was this and that. But these people are adamant that it was a black panther. And it gets a little bit tricky when you look at the details of that, because, technically, no, they haven't found any panthers that are solid black. You'll see a few pictures if you go on and Google online, and what you're actually seeing typically is like a black jaguar, which, at first glance can look solid black, but the spots are there. The pattern is there. And what these people are seeing, they're describing essentially an eastern cougar, panther, panther, whatever you want to call it. But they're saying that it's solid black. And this is a pretty fascinating thing, because you're looking at really hundreds and hundreds of accounts. If you broaden the area, the southern states of America alone, there are so many of these accounts. And some people have seen them multiple times, typically in the mountains or the swampy regions. And, depending on the account, you get all these distinctive things. They heard the feline sound, that a cougar makes. And it's challenged. I can understand the wildlife folks being challenged by it, because officially, even the eastern cougar is extinct. Although sightings of just out and out, tawny colored cougars crop up all over the eastern seaboard too, or the eastern states. So I think that, there's some out there that are surviving. It's been proven that mountain lions, expand their range pretty greatly and have come further and further east from the western states. And I think there's plenty of reasons to believe that, they have spread out in the eastern portion of the country too. Now, whether those are Florida panthers that are migrating north, it's hard to say. But there certainly are enough cases that we can say, no, you know what, there are some of these creatures in other states. The black ones, that's a whole other puzzle, man.
Yeah. Well, somebody in my chat just said that black cougars can be black. That has not been scientifically proven. I mean, that's...
No, and that's the problem, is that they, that's what the officials, the wildlife folks always come back to, this idea that, well, no, we don't have any evidence of any black cougars. So,
yeah, here's one for you. My Uncle Ed, he lived in North Carolina, and he passed away of cancer a few years ago. And me and him were chatting one day. I always liked him. He was my dad's stepbrother, but his mother was my dad's stepmother. She was the only grandmother I ever knew. My mom's mom died when I was like a baby, like a year and a half, 2 years old. So I only had that was really my only grandmother. And then my mom's aunt kind of was the surrogate grandmother on that side. But her son, Ed, swore up and down that one day he came outside and he saw what looked like a cougar that was black. And it was on the roof of his shed. And he swore up and down he saw it. And then he ran back inside and came back out, and it was gone. He told me that, and I mean, he never told me anything really paranormal or anything, but that happened in North Carolina. And I know that has been a hotbed for activity for black cats, that that supposedly they exist there, and people claim that they are black cougars. But I gosh, it's hard for two people that talk about cryptids and ghosts and all the stuff that we talk about. It's kind of hard for us to go, well, that hasn't scientifically been proven, because a lot of the stuff we talk about hasn't been scientifically proven. But you get tons and tons of eyewitnesses that say these things, and that one hit home to me because that he was, I considered him my uncle. He was my dad's stepbrother, and so I always thought it was weird that you get all these reports in particular in North Carolina in the Tar Heel State.
Well, there's a lot of wilderness in North Carolina, and these sightings, a lot of them, of course, crop up in the western portion of the state from the mountains. And you've got pretty, vast regions that there's just not people everywhere. And, of course, there's still some swamps in North Carolina. So there's plenty of space for them to range. And, I think that from some of the other accounts I've seen from various states, there's good evidence to show that they're probably ranging up and down the Appalachians. I spoke to someone who swore they were walking the Appalachian Trail and swore they had been stalked by a cougar while on the trail.
Wow. And
of course, that's not the kind of news that any state officials want to get out because the panic it would cause.
Yeah.
It's just pretty clear that animals don't follow anybody's rules. So states can issue proclamations all day that says, well, this animal doesn't exist here, but it doesn't mean that they're completely gone from the wilderness areas.
Well, and of course that's the crux of the issue. I think it was actually North Carolina not too long ago that someone had claimed that there was a child that was killed. That was one of the places. I think there was a couple. There's been a couple, but a child or someone, or it might have been a woman. And people were all like, "Oh, it could have been Dogman," because it was a canine that they never identified. But I might be mixing it up. There was one in Georgia.
That was a Georgia case.
That's right, Georgia. So,
yeah, and another place that has a lot of big cat sightings, and that was a very disturbing death. This elderly woman, and she was killed by an unidentified. They ended up saying it was canine, but there was a lot of controversy about it initially, with claims that it was something. Something more cryptid, or it was a big cat. With claims first that it was a big cat, and then all these different things. But they did end up saying that it was canine. However, they were not able to identify the particular animal. And Georgia has quite a problem with wild dogs, and that's become feral and roam the different portions of the state. So it's very likely that that's what she fell prey to, unfortunately.
Yeah, and of course, the cats they don't leave the claw. They don't have their claw prints. They can retract their claws. So, folks at home listening, if you come across prints that have the claws out, it's canine. If the claws are in and they're retracted, then that's very possibly a large cat. And I've actually seen very large cat tracks out near Lake Travis. Back in 2007 when I was working out there, I had a huge Mastiff. He was a 130-pound brindle Mastiff, and he was a bad dude. And I had trained him myself. And he didn't want to get out of the truck one day. And he was a pretty smart dog. And he was literally like grabbing on my ear like with his mouth. He's sitting in the back seat. I always had him with me. His name was Ivan. And had him for 16 years, a long time to have a Mastiff. They usually get really bad problems. He had hip dysplasia toward the end of his life, and they don't live to be that old, especially that big. And I took real good care of him, but he was trying to and he kept going like making this noise, and I got out. I was like, I gotta use the restroom, So I get out to do take a leak, and around the corner from the woods there's a bunch of woods. They're building up, a subdivision out there. And I didn't see it until the morning, and then the next day I go back over to my spot, and I see a huge track. And I took a picture of it, but this was back in, like I said, 2007, and it was on one of those Razor phones or whatever, and I don't, But I showed the property owner, and I said, "Look, there's a couple tracks out here. You got a very large cougar out here," because I was convinced that's what it was. But so Dave, I appreciate you coming on, man, and talking, and awesome to have you come on the show. You're an awesome guy. How did you survive the cold snap?
Oh, I did fine. I was in a tropical zone, so I still been traveling and researching and everything else. I wasn't even around to deal with it.
Oh, good. Well, good for you, because it kind of sucked. The week that it happened, I had our colleagues on. I had Redfern come on and talk about how bad it was. Then I called Blackburn and I called Gerhard and I said, hey, I called everybody and said, tell everybody how bad it sucks. And they basically did. And then I thought about it. I was like, you know what? We didn't call Weatherly. I guess he's probably, gallivanting across the country, and you were. So
yeah.
So you missed it. You missed the party, but good for you. You didn't have to deal with that. It was rough.
Nah, I was having mojitos, man.
Hey, rub it in, dude. I was like, I tell people, like, it was rough for me. I was trapped inside of my house the whole time. But the good thing is, I had like a bunch of steak that was left over that I had gotten from Christmas, and the ones that were left over that we didn't give away, because we give away from our company, for our security company, and we give them away. And so we had a bunch of these New York strips, and they were like 12-ounce New York strips. And I'll tell you right now, at the end of the week, I told my wife, I was like, I am sick of eating steak, because it was Friday before I could go out, and I ate a steak like every day for like 5
my
days.
gosh.
And you would be like, hey, that's a good thing to have, though. I mean, if you're going to be stuck, But I haven't eaten steak since I'm good for a while.
I hear you.
Well, Dave, it was good having you on, man. And anytime, it's always a pleasure to have you come on and talk to our guests. Everybody loves you, loves your work, and you're an amazing individual. And keep pumping out those books, man. And let me know if you need any help with anything.
Hey, I appreciate the support, man. You have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Play Black Eyed Kids for us.
Take care.
All right, later. So, folks, that was David Weatherly. He's a good friend of mine. Check out his work. He's got some awesome work. And he's a good dude. Very nice guy. Fun to talk to. Very well-read, well-traveled. A guy that I can sit there and talk to for hours. I mean, he's just he's an all-around good American. And let's get to the Q&As here, brothers and sisters. I had somebody calling me out, about Marvin. Oh, you go on his show and talk things out. Yeah, but also found out that he was kind of working behind the scenes with somebody who was, messing with Ryan, and that they were kind of collaborating. And that's not really my thing. I mean, they're fighting with Ryan, but it is my thing, because he's also my co-host on Whisper to a Scream, and he's my friend, and I'm not going to sit back and let people badmouth my friends. I'm just not going to do that. And so, he went on his show and said a bunch of stuff, and so I defended myself, and we talked things out, yeah, but that doesn't mean that I have to go on his show. That doesn't mean that I have to support his work, All I'm saying is I don't agree with it. I think, and I'm talking about Marvin. I'm not talking about David Weatherly. People are asking me about Marvin. I support David Weatherly's work 100%. He's a good guy. But I see right there, somebody says, was that the Black Eyed Kids guy? Yes, that was the Black Eyed Kids guy. But he's got a huge body of work other than the Black Eyed Kids thing. And so, anyways, people remember you for, certain things, whatever. That's what you're remembered for. Until I started doing all this, I just thought people would remember me as a thug. That's the truth. That's what I thought was going to be known as. Oh, you're downtown and getting into fights all the time. No. But what do I think of Steve Isdale from How to Hunt? Don't know him. Don't know anything about him. Can't even comment on the guy. He might be the greatest guy in the world for all I know. He might not be. I don't know. Oh, okay, James. You're joking. I was like, okay, because we were making the joke. Okay, I get it. Says Bobby Hill, $5 donation. Good show as always. Thank you, Bobby, for your donation. Bobby, you speak English. Says now you're known as the dog whisperer. Diane Rain, okay. I got a ton of stories. I don't have my notes right in front of me, but I'll try to do my best. She says that Paranormal Round Table, Thursday Wolf, today is my birthday. Would you please tell one really good story for me? Please make a Pisces smile. What do you want to hear about? I mean, I got stories of all kinds of different genres. Any thoughts on what's taking people? Missing 411. And see, and that's the thing. I was gonna try and get David Paulides, and talk to him and get him on the show, but then unfortunately, tragedy. I'm not gonna get into it, but he's dealing with a lot of stuff, and there's not. It's not the time for that. But what are my thoughts on what's taking people? I have a lot of thoughts about what's taking people, but Thank you. You pick Wolf. Oh, that's okay. I don't. Man, there's so many stories, and I don't want to. I don't. Here's the thing. I mean, we have them slated for, the shows. We have the stories, pulled out and kind of put like, okay, this is going to go on the show for this, and then this story is going to be told, for this, and so it's kind of hard to break that up. You got to give me a category or a genre. Any more Goatman stories? We told a passel of them on episode 1 and what's going to be episode 2 on Sunday of Whisper to a Scream. Now, folks, I'm going to warn you, the audio was not real good. The editing did not come out so good on that. It wasn't mine or Ryan's editing. Ryan had a third party do it. I'm not blaming that individual. I don't know that individual. But the sound quality is not superb on that. So I apologize, but there are a lot of Goatman stories, and I put a lot of effort into that, into gathering those stories and retelling them. And so, if you can stand the audio, then check it out. It dropped on Sunday. It's called A Whisper to a Scream podcast, and there's that, and then there's the part 2 that's coming out on this coming Sunday. Here's the thing. Here's a weird thing. The first episode we ever did for PRT, for Paranormal Round Table, was the Goatman. And that first episode had bad audio. So for the audio to be bad on these episodes of the Goat Man. Yeah, I'm sitting there going like, what's going on with this? Is this Goat Man not wanting to be talked about? I don't know. But too bad, Goat Man. We talk about you anyway. Says here, Paranormal Round Table family, please help with suggesting story topic. I'm open for anything. Zombie Killer, we are here to help to grow with you, Wolf. Thank you. Ryan, you don't get to choose. Ryan, you get to hear stories with me all the time. You just call me up and we'll talk about it. Zombie Killer, you have an NDE in hell from 06? Oof. Man. The little beings you see sitting on the Dogman's shoulder in Scott Copeland video. Stories near the Lake Cato area. Okay, Diane Rain. Little People Stories. Let's see. You got several from downtown, the downtown area. I got one. This happened near Liberty Hill, and it is for the Little People episode, so I'm going to give it to you. But there was a guy, and he was with his. Well, I don't know if I should say this. He's with his female friend who they later had a falling out because it was during a time where he was separated from his wife. And so it was like he was under a lot of stress and he was going through some things. And he began to see this other woman. And she told him, now this is weird. She had basically told this guy that she was having, she had like the eye, as we would say it in Spanish, the ojo or dotado, And so she basically had told this guy, this individual, that she could see things. And when he was staying the night in her apartment, he was having bad dreams about his ex-wife and that she was in trouble and all this other stuff. And he got the impression that the girl that he was seeing had put something on him, almost like a spell or a curse, like I don't know how you would say it, like she was responsible for breaking up his marriage, okay, and that's what he came to believe. And the reason that's important is because it could be what led into him having his encounter. So he was living right outside of Austin with his wife. They began to have marital problems. He began to see this woman that he was working with, and then he eventually left his wife. They separated. He got his own place, but then he began spending a lot of time with this woman that he worked with, and he was staying in her apartment, and he thought he saw a spirit or entity, a black, he said it was brownish black and like floating in the bedroom when he came out of the shower. He stared at it. He said that it was like hovering near the bed by where she was at, and he saw like a mouth on it with weird teeth. So it really scared him, and so he stopped seeing her for a while. But then she reached out to him, and his wife at that point was still mad at him. Didn't want to. Diane Rain says, "Thank you for making my day special. Love you guys. Thank you for the donation." But you didn't have to do that. Like, it's your birthday. So, anyways, if I remember the story correct, because I don't have my notes in front of me to verify and make sure this is correct. but I'm almost 100% because this story I didn't get that long ago. So, anyways, he ended up like having like second thoughts. He started, he had this cousin that was a curandera, like she was like a good, kind of like what we would call in Spanish, like a good witch. She told him, you need to get away from that woman. That woman has like put the paprika on you. She's got you, messed up and all this stuff. And so he stopped seeing her, but the wife didn't want nothing to do with him, and there was a bunch of problems. His kids were angry at him, so he was kind of hopeless and despair. He starts talking to this woman again, and he eventually confronts her and tells her, hey, I saw this weird thing in your house. And she acted like, I don't know what that is, he found black candles in the closet, which was weird. Bunch of weird stuff happened. And ultimately she's like, my cousin's got some land on the other side of Liberty Hill. We can go hunting out there, and let's go away for the weekend or whatever. So they went to this area on north of Liberty Hill. Liberty Hill's probably 30 miles outside of Austin, 35 maybe, I don't know. It's on the other side of Cedar Park or Leander area, if you look at a map. So they went out there and they went on a little hunting trip in this area where her cousin had a place or whatever that he would hunt. And he said, so they went out there to go hunt, and the girl that he was with, she fell asleep. And he kind of was aggravated because they're hunting and she's snoring, but it didn't really matter because, while he was there hunting, these two little imp-looking creatures, he said their legs, like if they would have stood up, their legs would have been like a normal human's legs, but their upper bodies were really small. And they were only about 2 feet off the ground, and they had these like weird, almost like, the way he described it was like rabbit legs, but they were humanoid. But they had weird little caps on their heads, not red, And he said it was almost dusk, and he couldn't really tell, but they had wearing like these little caps that kind of like beanies that came over the back of their heads, and they had these weird looking legs, and they kind of hopped out of the woods into the clearing. Now, oddly enough, my nephew Zane, actually, when we were working at a site here in Austin called Rio Lotto, he claimed to have seen at that site, and I'd seen shadows there because, years and years and years before, when I worked there as security, there was actually someone that was shot there back in like the mid 90s or something like that, and I was actually not on the property when it happened, but like I was an adjacent property, and I showed up with my partner that was, and we were doing these two different properties. So there were a lot of bad things that happened there. He saw these shadow-looking entities, like kind of hopping around. And it was an abandoned. It was the projects. Basically, it was a government housing, but it was spooky because nobody was living there. There were just buildings. Now it's completely gone. It's leveled, but there was like a playground, and if you went anywhere near that playground, you would hear stuff, maybe see stuff. I saw a shadow there one time. Looked like a shadow of a man come off the wall, which, I see stuff, weird stuff. But he claimed that he saw these weird looking like entities that were kind of hopping around. He told me that when he was young, and I remember, I don't know, Zane, if you're listening or whatever, but I think you're at work right now. But if you listen to this, I know you remember what I'm talking about. But that's what came to mind whenever this individual was telling me of this story. But he could see them clearly, like they were solid. And like I said, he said it was weird because their legs were like they were bent, and like they just used them to kind of hop, and their feet were really big. And he said that it didn't look like they ever stood up. They weren't made to like stand up and walk around. Except they stood up and walked around, their upper body would be way out of proportion to their lower body. And so, anyways, they were kind of hopping around and digging through the dirt or whatever. And they had these weird-looking little skinny hands with almost like talons. And this was going on while this lady was asleep. So he starts to shove her and tries to get her attention, like, hey, there's these little creatures, little people here, whatever. He's like, come on, wake up. Well, her eyes roll back in her head, and then she just growls like, you know, and he's just like, what the heck, you know? And then he looks over, and when she made that noise, these two little creatures turn and then start making their way toward him. And he said when they turned, their eyes were like blank. They had like they were just white right there. Their eyes, you know, were either completely glazed over to where you couldn't see the pupils, or they had none. They were just white. And he said that they both had, when he saw the side, he thought he could see a tongue flicking out. When they turned, they had like the tongues kind of going up and down in their mouths. It was a very weird encounter. They had really pointy ears. He couldn't really get a beat on how dark the skin was, and the color. It was almost just like gray, brown, green, whatever, because it was blending in with the trees. And they just started coming toward him, and eventually he thought about, well, I should just get up and leave, or maybe shoot at one of these things. That was his options. And he finally shakes her and wakes her up, and she wakes up, and he said her eyes literally like rolled back, and then she was like, what do you want? In this really unearthly voice. And he was like, look. And when he goes to wave his arm and say, look at these creatures, or whatever they are, these little monitos, you know, as we call them in Spanish, she turned and looked, and the little monitos or duendes, whatever they were gone. And then she played it off like, well, maybe she just was really asleep. I mean, who knows? But she was just like, what are you looking at? What am I looking at? What am I seeing? And she kind of made fun of him and then chastised him. And he's like, well, we need to leave. I saw something weird. And she kept laughing at him, making like it was a joke. And he was like, look, you know, we're out here to hunt, and you're falling asleep. So first of all, that's just, you know, and you're snoring, you know. And so they walked back the trail. He didn't see these creatures anymore. They got in his truck, and then he went back to the cousin's place, got his stuff, and she was angry because they were leaving. He dropped her off at her place, and a couple weeks later, he was back with his wife, and he changed jobs and quit talking to her. She continued to harass and stalk him and his family, though, and weird stuff has happened, and I can give you an update on some of that. He's given me some stories of some things that have happened since then. He found a black bird nailed to a tree in his front yard. So yeah, there's been some weird stuff, and obviously this is somebody who's been messing with magic, but I don't know what those creatures were, why he saw them, why she was asleep while it was happening. If anybody out there listening has any ideas as to why that is, and yeah, so there's your story. And that is a really, really messed up Little People story. Hope it wasn't, you weren't looking for the Smurf Village, because that's definitely not what that was. But Amy, thank you for your $10 donation. Says baby mama used to growl at me like that too. Well, I'll tell you what. Sometimes, if I wake up Nellie, she can, you know, she gets, you know. I know Phil Stern, big fan of the show. Give a shout out to him. He made a joke or whatever. He put on the Paranormal Round Table group. If you're not a member of the Paranormal Round Table group, folks, go check it out. It's on Facebook, and you know you can join. He did an impression of me that was just spot on. It was absolutely, it was me. It captured me. It was like, I'm Josh Turner. I'm smiling. Okay, Phil, you're taking it too far with this I'm not smiling thing. I recently posted a photo to Instagram and to, I didn't do Twitter or whatever, but I did Facebook. And it was, my wife took a picture of me smiling. Okay, I was in my truck or her car or one of those, and I was driving and I was smiling and I was completely content. That's what it looks like when I smile. You see that? You see it? Take a good look at it. Okay? Yeah. Okay. This music is just... Okay, it says, Josh, did you see my question about burblings? Well, let me go back and read it over here. I read about them in Fate magazine when I was a kid. Have you ever heard of them? What is this we're talking about? Burblings? Can you elaborate on that, sir? Or ma'am? Name is Wendy. Are dogmen all over the Texas Hill Country? What are the highest concentration areas in Texas for dogmen in your opinion? Thanks. You know, that's a hard one because I get stories from West Texas of these hyena-type creatures. I get stories from East Texas. I get stories from here in Central Texas and the Hill Country. I get stories from South Texas, North Texas, the coast. I even get, weird stories. I know Chief's done a lot of research down in Corpus, and he's gotten, reports of the Canejo and the Hombre Lobo. I don't know. I can't tell you. I mean, I don't know. It says, what's your thoughts on Dogman and Bigfoot knowing when they are being filmed? Obviously they're smarter than we give them credit for, but and if that's the case, then that also tells you that they're not just regular flesh and blood animals. Doesn't mean that they're not physical or presenting themselves as physical in our reality, but they're obviously more than just a flesh and blood animal. Because so many people want to believe that they're flesh and blood animals doesn't mean that they are. I don't know. Yeah, any dinosaur stories in Texas? Yes, I have dinosaur stories. Says, I think they just dislike the electric frequency. That's possible. Because, a lot of things, are really just energy. It's just electricity. It's all it is. So it could be an electric frequency thing. I mean, that could be what it is. That could be what we're dealing with. Steve Snyder, I created a skeleton named Skeleton Bones, and his dog named Scully. He goes on adventures a lot and imitates some of the things from Blue's Clues and Drake and Josh. What do you think? No opinion. Thorns of South Texas don't bother Dogman. I mean, it's not like the whole area is just covered in thorns. I mean, there's thorns, and but I'm sure they can navigate it. I mean, depends on where you're at. Another thing, too, folks, I was going to tell everyone, I've had very little sleep. My eyes are burning right now. I've slept for about 3 hours today. One of the things I was going to tell everyone is to let us know, in the YouTube comments or the Paranormal Round Table group, however you listen to us, go and like and subscribe on YouTube, please do that. And if you would, drop us a line and tell us what kind of stories you want to hear. What is it that you're looking for? Because Dogman is just really overplayed right now. I mean, we're doing it. I'm gonna do another spot. I'm gonna do a spot soon with Dark Waters. Possibly, I don't know exactly when that's gonna happen. When I get time away from my job, do it. And I got a little more Hernandez Ranch ready to go, and then I'm gonna kind of back off for a little bit and kind of go in another direction and start doing some other stuff. I got a lot of other stories that need to be told about a lot of other things, and I would like to know what besides the Dogman everybody's interested in and what you would like to hear. I have a pretty compelling Bigfoot story that happened to an acquaintance. I'll say an acquaintance because I knew him when we were teenagers. I didn't really know him when this happened to him, but he had told me this story not that long ago, maybe a few years ago. And then I got back in touch with him not just here recently, and he reaffirmed, like he told me the story, and like we didn't grow up together, we didn't go to the same school or anything. But I did know him because he did go. We went to the same church for about a year when we were kids, and even though we lived in two different towns, we went to the same church. And so I got reacquainted with him, and then he gave me his story. It's weird how it moves. See how it goes woof woof. The camera's like, man, it's weird. So, anyways, it was a Bigfoot encounter that he had as a kid, and it happened with him and a friend, and it was pretty scary. So I'm going to get into that one at some point. That's a pretty good one. I got a lot of ghost stuff that I needed to put out there too. Some people in the cryptid community say, "Oh, ghosts are too scary." Well, depends, and I have a lot of different stuff to talk about. Just a lot of unknown, weird stuff, that we're going to talk about. It's all coming up. I have no plans at this point. I made a decision the other day with my wife and with my nephews and with everybody that is involved in the show. And I said, even with everything that's going on, there's still a lot of people that are suffering a lot worse than me through COVID and everything else. And I get tons and tons of mail, messages, emails, Messenger telling me, we like what you do. Keep doing it. And because of those people that have reached out to me and continue to tell me to hang in there and things, are rough, but, we enjoy listening to your stories and you tell your stories. I appreciate that, and it keeps me going. Question mark person, ghosts are lame? Well, it depends. I don't tell lame ghost stories. It was a dark and stormy night, and there was a woman blowing in the breeze in the cemetery, and she went boo. If you're looking for that, that's pretty boring. It's pretty lame. Are you watching the guy on whatever channel that is, where he goes and yells and screams at ghosts? Come on, man. You want to fight, bro? You want to fight? Come on, ghost. I'll beat you down, bro. I'll take my shirt off and I'll fight you. But get out of here, man. The only entertaining part about it is that guy doing that. And other than that, it's just, like with his haircut for people that are 20 years younger than him. But, are those the kind of ghost stories that you're talking about? Because that can be boring. It can be lame. But if you realize that spirits is really a lot of what we're dealing with is the spirit world, because we are all actually spirits. And you realize that a lot of these things that everybody's into, it really is spiritual. Then it won't be so boring. Yeah, I've thought about that too, about the cynocephali, like they could be cynocephali. Yeah, Dick says ghosts are lame until they're in your bedroom. Yeah, Ooh, something smacked my feet in the middle of the night while I'm sleeping. I had to check. You had to check him? It says here, throwing shade at Bicep Boy. The thing about ghosts is because my grandma was a deeply religious and very stern woman. When she says she saw one, I believe her. Here's another thing too, and if there's any people out there that you would like me to get on the show and interview, and I don't dislike the crap out of them, I might be willing to bring them on the show. I'm going to tell y'all something, okay? And this is how I am, and this is not trying to sell myself or trying to convince you that I'm a good guy. If you haven't figured out what kind of person I am by now, you're never going to. But I'm going to tell you this. I was approached by someone who is pretty popular, and probably would have boosted my ratings and probably would have helped me be a little more recognized. And I don't like this individual. Okay, I don't really like his work. I don't like his style. I don't think he's off. Somebody just said authenticity. That word. I was just about to say I don't think he's authentic, and I was just like, I kind of declined, and he was just like, your loss. I'm like, yeah, it is my loss. Whatever. Time will tell. But I'm not going to bring somebody on my show who I don't get along with, who I don't like. Now, I have brought people on my show and then later kind of regretted it and was like, maybe that person wasn't really. There were a couple people who I've had on the show. One in particular used to be co-host with Ryan. I wish I never would have dealt with him in any shape or form. He was regretful. Another one was a guy from Australia who had good material. I mean, like he had good information. So I don't regret bringing him on the show per se. Don't agree with his views really. But I didn't dislike him, but he went to war with me over that individual that Ryan has had the problems with, and so that was somebody. I don't necessarily regret it, but I don't really talk to them anymore, nor do I really like them or their character. There was another person that came on my show who was a female who came onto my show, and she had a podcast too, and she turned out to be kind of like not a very. She was a cantankerous person, and pretty much came on my show and helped promote her work and whatever, but whenever it was time for me to go on her show, it was like, oh, well, it might be 2 or 3 months before I can get you in, unless you want to come on and talk about magic. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not a warlock, okay, and I don't have any card tricks. I'm not Gambit. So I declined. I was like, no, it's fine. We don't need to record, and then you go and you look at that person's show, and they have like 1,000 subscribers or something, and I was like, I didn't, it's not like I missed the boat on that one. But for the most part, if you've been on my show or you come on my show, I like you, I get along with you, you're somebody that I like to deal with, and I don't have a problem with you. So I'm going to sit here and tell you, that being said, I won't deal with someone just because they're famous or just because they got something going and it can help boost me. I was asked to be on a person's show not too long ago, and I declined. And there again, I was told this was a friend of mine though. He told me, he's like, you really should do it, And I'm like, I don't think I'm a good fit. I don't really, this person. I really felt like this person wasn't going to ask me correct questions, and what I mean by that is they're going to be looking for something that I'm not going to agree with, and so I'm not going to be put on the spot by this person and then them edited however who knows what, because when you go on people's shows, they can edit however they want to edit it. And so, there's no telling, and I just didn't completely trust that person, and so I kind of decline. I tend to stay away from other people's shows, but I'm not against going to other people's shows. I just don't really have the time for it right now. But as of late, I've been, I had a couple opportunities, and I didn't take it because I just didn't think it was for me, I guess I should say, and compromising my integrity with my listeners. I don't care if you're famous. It doesn't impress me. I've met lots of famous people working downtown Austin. There's tons of people that come here from all over. Lou the good dude, not that I'm special or anything for being a patron, but I thought I remembered you saying maybe you guys would release too hot for PRT kind of stuff there. Maybe I'm mistaken, and if so, I have a story for you guys. Oh, stuff that can't be talked about. That would have to be on a completely different channel and can't be done on YouTube. So I don't know. But Lou, I do appreciate you helping out and being a Patreon member, folks. The Patreon it helps a lot. And if anybody wants to help donate to the Patreon, that really it would mean a lot. It helps keep the show going here. Steve Stockton is full of stories. Yeah, Anne Celine, her name is. She told me about Steve Stockton, and then I think John Bankhead, another friend of mine, told me Steve Stockton. So I've had a couple people recommend him. I need to get back in touch. I think I got in touch with him once, and yeah, I'd work with him. He seems like a good guy. I was going to do a collaboration with a guy named Zach, but it didn't. It fell through because I just didn't have the time to turn in the story to put it on his. He was doing a collaboration with a bunch of different people, and I just didn't get my story. I just didn't have time. He wanted a zombie story, and I had one. I don't mean like Walking Dead zombie, but something that people saw that could be thought of as zombie-like. So I was like, yeah, I could do that. Jupiter says, Josh, you and Dark Waters are my favorite. I don't choose sides in the Dark Waters Vic thing, and I wasn't attacking Vic like I was accused of earlier by that ridiculous, childish individual who every time she comes on my channel, every time she leaves a comment on my show, she's promoting Marvin Allen. She constantly does that, and her and a few other people like her are the reason why I don't. Is one of the reasons why I don't like Marvin, because I do believe that he sends these people out to do this, to do his dirty work. And if you want to take it however you want to take it, Marvin. I really don't give a crap. Okay, because if you were doing the right thing, you'd be, pulling your people in, reining them in, and not having them plaster your stuff, every chance they get, everywhere they go. So you rein in your disciples. That's another reason why I don't want to deal with him or work with him. And so the only problem I had with Vic was really just some of the level of people that have been on his show, which is not really his fault. But just putting that guy on your show over and over again. How do you know it's not him using sock accounts? I don't. All I know is that Claire Ellis is constantly mouthing off and coming in. We've removed her. Today we had to remove her. She leaves comments on our shows, basically saying that just promoting him all the time, and it's like I'm doing a show and it's like, Marvin Allen's on Vic Cundiff's show again, Vic's on Marvin's again, like who cares? I mean, You know, it just got too. It just got too much, you know. I was just like, I was tired of hearing about the, you know, and then all these people telling me, you know, like the situations with the stories that were told that weren't correct. Somebody gives you a story, you have a responsibility, you know, to have integrity and tell that story correctly. I mean, don't muck it up, dude. I mean, like, you have to tell it correctly because people are going to listen. And they're gonna call you out, and if you mess with what their words are, I'm telling you, dude. I mean, it's like you're messing with people's money, dude. I mean, you know, you're asking for trouble, and this guy's done that, and so that's my beef with him. Everybody's acting like I'm just attacking this poor little guy, you know, for no reason. That's not the case. I mean, you know, I just don't agree with him. So I'm not going to work with him, and more than likely the 300th episode was it. I'm not going back on Dogman Encounters. I made a choice the other day. I just decided, you know, when this individual just kept going back onto his show, and I just said I'm not going to do it. I'm done. I'm gonna do what I got to do and just, you know, move in another direction. And so I just was like, that's it. I'm not going to entertain it, you know, anymore. And I'm not going to keep, you know. And so everybody thinks that I'm just kind of like, you know, being like this, you know, big meanie or whatever because I don't want to work with this individual. Well, I don't want to work with somebody who's not honest. That's my big thing, you know. I didn't put any gel in my hair today, guys. So. And, do I think he's dishonest? I think he mistells people's stories. And I think he was dealing with a dishonest person, a few of them, and he's got his people out there, you know, attacking us. I mean, come on, dude. Wendy Williams, that's a very true statement, I think. Jason McFadden, hey, what's up, brother? New Zealander, my Kiwi buddy. Jason says, that's why we've got such a great group here, Josh. You and the crew work hard to make sure this is a safe and funny place to come at any time of the day. A lot of respect for you guys. Thank you. Says, yes, anyone with street smarts can tell he's full of crap when he tells the stories. Very possibly. But, you know, I don't even think you have to have street smarts to see that. I don't know how people can... Stimulate, I can tell you right now, yeah, your comment about him not being, that's not been my experience. I could tell you some stuff, dude. what happens is people build a following, and sometimes these people who build these followings, they're very it can be very Charles Manson-esque. You'll get one of these guys that have basically the Manson chicks, helping them out and going out and terrorizing other channels, and that's kind of what's happened with him. And just don't say anything about him, because they're watching and listening, and then they're going to come after you and say a bunch of crap, and they think that he's going to become this worldwide famous guy, whatever. They have this belief, kind of like the guy from Wisconsin, the Dogman Whisperer. He's got his cult following. And it really shocks me how these people manage to get followers. I'm always like stunned by that. I'm always like amazed at the people that others would follow. You're like, for my money, you got to show me something. You got to give me something, dude. Like, sycophants, basically. What are you providing that these people have, because like me, for my loyal listeners, every Friday I give away a book, and I put in some PRT swag, and a lot of you have received that. We do art contests. We spend every penny that we get for the show, we put it right back into the show and to helping you guys and actually doing something for you guys. Now ask yourself, people, and I'm not trying to tell you that I'm the greatest thing out there since sliced bread, okay? But what are these other people doing for you? Do they give you those? Do they give you something? What are they giving you? What are they doing for you? Are they willing to help you in any way, shape, or form if it's not helping them in some shape or form? I think, like, man, there's people out there that are just peddling garbage, and people are buying into it, and they're not even good. If you're going to make up crap, at least, make it good or something. It just some of it just sounds so ridiculous. It's like, and then on top of it, they want you to give them money, and then they don't offer anything back in return. I don't get that. I'm not understanding how these people can follow these people. How they get people to subscribe to their channel, or how they get people to just, it's just ridiculous. And like I said, I'm going to be giving away a David Weatherly book for this live stream. If I had more time, it really is just a matter of time. I would do a giveaway on every Tuesday too, but I have to go to the post office already like once or twice a week, and it's like, it says they give the greatest thing people want when speaking of the paranormal: validation. Do they? I don't know. Are they really validating anything with some of the nonsense that they come out with, or how they butcher people's stories? Because they're taking people's stories and they're not telling them correctly. So that's a problem. And if you, and let me tell you something, if you don't have a strong mind, a good memorization ability, or you don't have the good storytelling skills to recreate the person's story and tell it the way they gave it to you, then don't do it. Okay? Because you got a lot of people out there who are doing it, and they don't know what the heck they're doing, and they're not doing it correctly. They're like, okay, yeah, today we're going to talk about the dog man. Yeah, dog man. Yeah, oh, dog man. Or, yeah, man, the dog man. That's what happened. It was a dog, Come on, dude. Those people don't even have the speaking ability. They're not even coherent with the things that they're saying. And people are just falling for it. I'm just like, come on, man, And when you continually deal with these people, you continue to deal with them, then I'm out. I'm done. I'm not going to entertain it anymore. I'm just, from here on out, it's going to be Josh Turner, Wolf. I'm going to do us. I'm going to be on PRT. If I go on someone's show, I'm going to be very picky about it. Very discerning, and because I don't want to go up there and embarrass the PRT family, because you folks listening, you at home that are watching this, that come on the live stream and participate and listen to my show every Friday, I represent you. So would you like me to go on to someone's show and just take a big deuce and talk a bunch of nonsense? And then you're like, yeah, that's the guy whose T-shirt I bought, and I'm follow this guy, and look at what he just did. He just got on there and butchered someone's story, and now they're all talking about it and talking about how ridiculous this dude is, how stupid he is. Because that's what they do. I don't know. Lou the good dude. Carrie, it says Carrie Eaton was so good. I loved her. Seemed like she's a sweet, cool lady. I love her Facebook group as well. Yeah, and the thing about Carrie too, like I talked to her like off the air, and we talked, and my wife has spoken to her too, and we listened to her werewolf encounter before I ever did the recording with her, which is going to drop on Friday. It's really good, guys. You got to check it out. But Carrie was just a very genuine person. She's not. She's not like when she tells the story, she's just being very matter of fact. People were saying, well, they didn't totally follow everything she was saying or whatever. I had a couple people say that, not many, but a couple. And I'll tell you like this. She told that story now 3 times. Those stories that she gave me, I've heard them about 3 times now, and they never changed. And she was just giving you the exact, this is what happened, this is how I remember it. And so, she's not embellishing it or changing it around. It's not like every time you talk to her, it changes, and then there's another detail that was left out. No. It was just this is what happened. There were multiple things that happened to me in my life, and I think that she saw these things because she's able to see them. And I think that that's what happens to people like her and many others. They are experiencers, and they can see and hear these things, Do I have a PRT mailing address? Yes, I gave it on the last live stream, I believe. I don't know. I don't have it on me right now because, like I said, I'm doing this from home, folks. Because my wife had gone to the hospital. She was in the ER for several hours today, and so I'm doing this from home, and I don't have the paper. There's all kinds of papers everywhere in here. But it's all work-related stuff. I don't have the mailing address, unfortunately. I'm gonna post that on the Paranormal Round Table group, which I should have already done, so that you can mail things to us. Somebody already asked that question about dogmen, a higher concentration of dogmen. I would probably say here in the Hill Country in Central Texas or East Texas. And Lou, the good dude, Carrie's coming back on for part 2 on Friday. Yeah, please pray for Nellie. I think she has a broken back, and that's what's been bothering her, and it's causing all kinds of issues. The pain emanates into her chest, and today she was not able to breathe, and it was mimicking a heart attack. So she had to go to the hospital, and she had an old injury. Probably from a car wreck she had a long time ago. And when they found the broken, there's two of them. They actually said that it was like an old injury that may have been re-aggravated because, and I think it was when we were at the gym actually when she hurt herself, and she's been in a lot of pain. It was either that or this really crummy chiropractor she went to, and because one of our best friends is a chiropractor, and she was busy and she couldn't help her. But Nellie was in so much pain, she ended up going to this other quack, and we don't know if it was that or the gym or a combination of both, possibly, that re-aggravated that injury. But she's a very sweet person, and I love her, and I hope she gets better. It's rough when you're with someone that you love and they're always in pain. Look at this hair. Oof. I'm not coming back on the air without doing something with this hair. You draw Nelly anything, dude, make her feel a little better. Why don't you draw one of me, Jason? Okay. I asked everyone to draw me as a Jedi Knight, and it did not happen. Actually, I'm lying. I didn't ask y'all that, but I'm telling you now that's what I want. I want to be known as, I want to be seen as really good guy, Jedi Knight, but then also as a really bad Sith Lord guy. Says, my daughter keeps harassing me to tell you that we might have seen a cryptid in the southwest of Houston. That wouldn't surprise me at all. It cleared an 8-foot fence from the street and went into a Chinese temple. It was crazy, Harry. Oh my gosh, that's a weird story. Tony's mother is a Buddhist. Tony is not Anthony. Anthony and Tony are two different people, folks. Tony, his mother is a Buddhist, basically a Buddhist, practicing Buddhist, a shaman. And she, there are some weird things that can lurk around temples, those temples, just like churches, sometimes. I mean, there was another haunted church that we worked right off of 360. I was going to say the name. I probably shouldn't, because it was one of our clients, and you never know, they might call us back. But because the Church of the Forgotten wasn't the only church that we did security at that was creepy and haunted. It was just the most extreme, which is why the Travel Channel picked that episode up. And I don't know, that's supposed to be being released this coming summer. So you'll see me on TV being very stiff and and I'm talking like this because it was the most miserable experience. Like, filming was just it was miserable. The guys that I worked with, like Michael Sheehan, is a great guy, nice guy. I mean, but just the filming, and then of course, him and his people couldn't be here because of COVID, so they were on this teleprompter thing, on this screen, and I was being filmed by a local crew that they had hired. And me and Scorpion had to sit there, tell the story, and I felt stiff, and I felt like I wasn't, And I don't want anybody to think that I'm angry at Vic or that I'm against him or anything like that. He's actually been a very nice guy to me. He's been a very good friend, and we used to talk quite a bit. I just don't, like I said, some of the things that have happened, especially as of late, in particular with that individual, I just don't, I'm not going to be, I don't want to deal with that. So, but it's nothing personal against him. He puts a guest on, and they flake, and it's like, You know, what do you want him to do? I'm sorry, folks, but I got to eat something before I pass out. So he's got to find somebody to cover, you know, to do it. My show's different. I don't have that problem. I don't depend on guests. I have guests on, but it's not like something I have to do. You know what I mean? These are very good. I'm also going to be getting some sponsors here pretty soon. But there again, if I don't like the product, I'm not going to sponsor it. If I'm not willing to use it, I'm not going to sponsor it. If it's a woman's product, obviously I can't use it, you know, whatever. I mean, but let's put it this way. If my wife doesn't use it, or somebody that I think that can tell me the truth about it, because I care about you, the listeners, the fans, I'm not going to tell you. Go and use this product and it sucks. Like, oh, Josh Turner told us that. Man, he's a liar. I'm not going to do that. Yes, Mike Mavero. Josh, you told a story one time about a dogman sighting a water treatment plant, and was that in Texas? Yes, it was. Says, I've known Vic since the Campfire Shadows days. He got well known and forgot me. Who are you? Cryptidville? Well, thank you, Lisa Smith. Tuesday and Fridays are my favorite nights, too. Because of PRT. Guys, I love you all, but I got to get to bed. Josh, keep up the great work, brother. Thank you, Curtis Turner. No relation, but a great guy nonetheless. Paranormal Round Table brings you Raid Shadow Legends. Anyways, folks, I've been rambling on here. Not quite 3 hours. I usually do about 3 hours. What parts of Austin no one wants to work at night? Not so much anymore, Christian, but I will tell you, at one time as Austin was expanding, people didn't want to work in the north, in the hill country area, or in the southwest, because it was very creepy. And there were a lot of wild hogs and stuff out there, and I had guards get out to do a round, and one of them got trapped inside of a building because a family of hogs just decided to come and start rooting around right there between him and his truck. So it's just, there's a lot of creepy places out there, and it depends on if you're talking about like the areas that are bad, like as far as like dangerous. There's a street called Runberg, which I worked at for 6 months back in 2019, and we ended up evicting like 30-something units. And I got into two physical altercations. Scorpion got into one, and there was some weird haunted stuff that went on there. That was a rough place. So you know, Runberg's a rough area. People don't really like to work Runberg, whether it's east or west Runberg. It's all bad. The other area is Dove Springs and southeast Austin. That's a very bad area. It used to be near the old airport, Robert Mueller, which is now it's all gentrified and changed. But that was an area people didn't like to work. And then on the east side, in general, very dangerous area. People didn't like to work. And then Montopolis was notoriously bad. And that's an area where Scorpion grew up. Scorpion grew up in Montopolis. And so people are dropping out, and thank you for the prayers. Says Andrew Finnerty, thanks for being online, Josh. Take care of Nellie. We'll be praying real hard for her back to heal and for her to live more pain-free days. Thank you. People are worse than the dog, man. In Hernandez Ranch, we're going to continue to come out with... when we get into Jerry's encounters on the Hernandez Ranch, I'm going to tell you right now, he didn't have as much of the ethereal type stuff happening. He had one thing, if I remember correctly, but he had a couple, like it was just more of like just encounters. And then of course Shane and his brother had had a mixture of both. And then of course Jerry and Robbie, their brother, he had a couple things happen. He had never talked about it. He would never talk about it. And when I did the stories on DER, he never talked about his experiences, but he finally did with me. So. And that's Andrew Jr. Their dad would be Andrew, who's the second to the youngest. Joe would be his brother, and then his older brothers would be Noah and Abel, and the other brother that passed away before I ever even knew them. Anyways, we're going to get into a lot of those different stories eventually. I mean, I got them all. So... we're going to talk about it. Richards, I don't think Cryptid Bill was being spiteful or angry. I think he's just saying that, Vic got famous, Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does make a difference when there's a show and there's a really good host and a co-host, and then they break up. A lot of times shows can't survive. They don't work as good when one member of the team is gone, but my show's just gone straight up. It doesn't... People ask me, do I think it's the Josh Turner show? I mean, you decide. What do you think? And it's weird too, because you'll have a host of a show or a researcher or an author, and one person will absolutely just love the crap out of that person, and another person will just absolutely despise them. They'll be like, I hate that person. They're so annoying. They were so rude. And I'm not even talking about like, oh, they're just not my cup of tea. I'm talking about absolutely hate that person and talk about how that person was rude to them, and that they're annoying and that they don't like them, so it's I guess it's everybody's own, it's your perspective on it, you know what I mean? Like, how you see it. It's just what it is, and so I can honestly say that there's really not that many people in this field that I dislike, just truly as the core of their character. I dislike them, and I want to say this before I get off the air. The person that I was mentioning earlier, I don't dislike him as his character. Like I'm not trying to speak ill. I'm talking of his actions and of maybe of him not telling the stories correctly. That's my biggest pet peeve. And then him not reining in his little sycophants. That's another issue. But then again, that could possibly be them doing that on their own. I'm not saying that he's sending them out, but it does seem like, they show up all over the place and kind of dog you out if you say anything against this individual. And I can tell you right now, I don't play. I'm not the one for that, man, because, I'm a little bit country and I'm a little bit hood. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't play that, dude. Don't come at me sideways talking a bunch of crap, because it's not going to work. You're not going to stop me. My train is going to keep rolling. We're going to roll right over you, because I think in this business you either have it or you don't. It's that simple, and it says, yeah, your old host used to throw you off topic when you're in stride during a great story. Not trying to be ugly, but it definitely changed the dynamic of your show. Yes, I agree. Corey Cole serving their master. Yep. And so, I don't send people out to attack other groups or people who don't want to do what I want. If I ask someone to come on the show, okay, and they're like, nah, boy, I'm busy, whatever. Oh, okay, all right. Let me gather my little troops here and let me send them out on seek and destroy missions. I don't do that. I'm not saying that that's what he did 100%, because I don't know. So I can't bear false witness. I can't accuse this guy of that because I don't know that that's what's going on. I just know that his people do what they do. There's another individual who recently started a podcast, or not podcast, but doing live streams on Facebook. And I told her that I wasn't going to deal with her as long as she dealt with people like that guy and that fool up in Wisconsin. He's not from Wisconsin, wherever he's up there, the Dogman Whisperer, who is a cancer to any group he gets into, and immediately starts pushing his agenda and not letting other people tell their story. The way that they he cherry picks and will go to what's really essentially a paranormal investigation, and we'll just pick out the Dogman part and see it. I don't know about all the other stuff. I got what I came for, and I'm just gonna use that, So when somebody does that, it tells me, A, you're not there to help people, and B, you are an SOB, because you got what you wanted, and to heck with everything else. So that's my point, is like, people that do that, I just can't get behind it. And I warned her. I told her. I said, you're messing with the wrong people. You're starting off. You're starting off at the bottom. Okay, you're dealing with bottom feeders. And then she went up, and then she started dealing with a third person that I don't associate with, and I think doesn't have integrity. And I was like, okay, that's it, we're done. So I got out of her group, and I quit associating with her. And I don't dislike her. I don't have a problem with her. I have a problem with her choice of people that she chose to deal with. And I don't fault, and this is the part I gotta tell you, I don't fault her for having done that, because she didn't really know any better. What I fault her for is me telling her, okay, this is how these people are, and then when one of them proceeds to do exactly what I said they were going to do, okay, they did literally exactly what I said they would do. Then, she continued. I mean, it's like, okay, yeah, okay, Josh, yeah, okay, like when that happens, then you're going like, okay, this person's not getting it, and they're not gonna get it. So I don't have time for you. And I don't care what you do. I don't care. Go on with yourself and go. Go and destroy yourself in whichever way you see fit. That's my issue. Just go do what you got to do. Go and do what you must, Rao, but never set foot in my dojo again. Raiken gets to the North Star. So, that's my thing, guys. That's me just telling you like it is, like always. Telling it how it needs to be told. Nothing fancy. Just dropping it like it's hot. If it's hot. If it's lukewarm, then whatever. Exactly, like the boys from Pantera. Walk on, homeboy. Some people have to learn from their own experience. You are correct. Just walk away. Exactly. And I'm going to try and get maybe in touch with Steve Isdall. If any of you out there keep hearing about him, why don't you guys set something up? Tell him to hit me up. And if he wants to do something, he might be a very busy person like me. I don't know who could be that more busy than what I'm doing with my job alone, and then doing this too. But he might be a very busy person. A lot of busy people out there, the go-getters. And maybe he has time for me. Maybe he doesn't. He won't hurt my feelings if he doesn't, because he's probably got a lot of going on. But if he has time, then let's chop it up. The other person I'd like to deal with is I keep hearing about is Steve Stockton. So yeah, Chad Lewis, man, I really want to get him on the show. I've just been so slammed. I haven't had time to just sit there. And also, people, if you would, please continue to pray for Linda Godfrey. She's not been doing too good. Barton Nunley, a good friend of mine, has been posting about her health not being good. I messaged her a few weeks ago, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she messaged back. And but recently, when I messaged her, she didn't respond, so that kind of bothered me. More work stuff. So anyways, I see that the chat room is dropping out here. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. It says, I can tell you and Scorpion have nothing to prove to each other. Those friends are hard to find. You're correct. Me and Scorpion go way back, along with most of my guys. And I will tell you this, most of my brothers that I call my brothers, they themselves are or were alpha males themselves. They were the kind of guys that were leaders of men and had their own crews, cliques, whatever. And I was sort of the alpha of all that. And I can tell you right now, I'm talking about big, bad, tough guys that most average human being would just get their they would punch you in the chest, your heart would stop. And I'm not kidding. And I've actually had physical altercations with some of these guys. And so that's why they respect me. And I always led from the front. There's the reason why these guys respect me. And I would stop whatever I was doing to do anything to help these people and flavor to the show. I try to do everything I can for us as the PRT because we're a family, right? We all work together. I don't send you out to go and destroy anybody else's shows or to do whatever. You listen and do whatever you want to do. I just try to be as straight with you as I can be because I can't control what other people do. But I get messages all the time about, what do you think of this guy? What do you think of that guy? Do you think this lady's on the up and up? Is this person, All I can tell you is what I know. And my experience, what I've heard from close personal people who've had experiences with them, and then the information is up to you. You do what you want to do with it. Cryptidville says, Josh, to answer your question, I'm the guy who was always working in the background to find answers, and when I stopped letting the big names use me, they kicked me to the curb. Here's my question for you. Have you thought about doing your own show, podcast, or something? I mean, because, I mean, the thing about it is, you're saying big name people use you, whatever. That you can make yourself be, one of those people. I mean, if you have the drive and you have the intensity, you have to have. I don't know, how do you say it? Let me put it into words. Ambition and the will to feed it. That's what you have to do. I mean, if you look at that, like I was watching that show about the Age of Samurai, Battle for Japan. Oda Nobunaga, he was the guy. He was the one that started it all. Eventually, he was betrayed and he was killed. But his two right-hand guys, Tokugawa and Toyotomi, they ended up becoming the leaders of Japan and kind of, founding the peace that ended up going on for 250 years. Tokugawa in particular, Toyotomi is the one that succeeded him, but ended up getting bogged down in a war with Korea and China. And then ultimately, when he passed, Tokugawa took over, and then he, it's like that, because you could be someone's right-hand guy, and then one day you could be the shogun. You could be the guy. I have a lot of guys that I were my sidekicks, if you will, were my, friends, and they went on to, they were my understudies. I mentor these guys. Chief is the prime example. He has Arcanum Combat, the school, and I was kind of like, his mentor, one of his mentors, and he went on to do his own thing, become a professional fighter. I got guys that became professional powerlifters, guys that became boxers, pro wrestlers. I mean, train with these guys and helped them, whatever. Got friends that own nightclubs and run bars and whatever. And I was there to help them, to get them started. There's nothing stopping you from making yourself into whatever it is you want to do. I wanted to do this show, and I did it. And I had people help me. Yeah, absolutely. And to make it what it is. But it's up to you to take the bull by the horns, take the initiative, and go out and do it. You feel like people use you and then you didn't get anything out of it. Well, you know what? Go start your own thing and push until it works. There's a million people out there trying to do this, and there's only a very small handful that are actually doing it right and able to do it correctly. Don't get discouraged. I've tried lots of things until it worked. When I was 21 years old, I had a friend that worked at 7-Eleven, and I was barely a paycheck away from being homeless every paycheck. I was living paycheck to paycheck, 20 to 21. And at one point, I was just a paycheck away from being homeless. I managed to pay my rent and my electric, and couldn't afford my gas, so I had my gas turned off, and I didn't have any food, and so I had a friend that worked at 7-Eleven who was a good friend of mine back then, and anyways, he fed me. I would eat the expired sandwiches every day after work, and there was a time when I was when I was in my late teens, I slept in my car for like 2 months. Slept in the park. I've been homeless. I've slept on people's couches and just depended on their mercy to give me whatever. And from the ashes of my life that were what was the uselessness of my life, I picked myself up, and I had one pretty good skill, and it wasn't talking. It was just using my fists. And I found people who had a need for people like me. Just like back in the old days, they had a need for gunfighters. Well, these people needed people who could fight, you know. And so I used that skill as a pugilist specialist, as Lennox Lewis likes to call it. And I used my fist to get what I needed. I always knew, though, there's more to the brain, less to the boot. I always believed in that. And, you know, you get a lot more out of life if you use your brain instead of being a thug. So eventually I was able to get what I needed, and, you know, I moved up. And I went from job to job until I finally was able to find my niche and eventually make a living and be successful and make it. I'm not like the most successful person in the world. I mean, obviously I'm here at the house, but I'm actually doing a show from my nephew's room, you know. But I mean, I could do it from my room. My wife's in there sleeping, though. But I mean, like, you know, I could do it from, you know, another room. But this is where we're at today because my wife had this situation. But I have an office and I have a studio, and, you know, I'm not homeless. I co-own a very large company. And so, you know, I'm not asking for handouts from 7-Eleven anymore. I'm not fighting in the alleys, back alleys, punching people for a few extra bucks. You know, did that. You know, went to Louisiana and fought a guy that looked like he was a Neanderthal. I'm not kidding. One of these days I get Tony's stepdad to talk about that. We went to Louisiana. I fought this guy who looked like a throwback from another era. Okay, and didn't knock him out. Just, he took a beating, and I felt really bad because it was like his handlers knew that he had had enough, but it was just whatever. You know, it is what it is, dude. You live your life, and you try to live the best life you can, and you try to do the best you can with what God gave you. My life was very hard. I've had a very, very, very tough go of it, and sometimes I choke up and I think about how bad at times, like miserable, sleeping in a car with a broken window while it's raining. You know, it's really hard. It's very, but you know what? You pick yourself up and you go and you make the best of the hand you're dealt. I always say that. You play the hand you're dealt. And I had a lot of people judge me, and I've had a lot of people come at me sideways, you know. But in the end, I know what I'm made of, and I know what my people are made of. And if you come at us, you're going to lose. Because one thing, I was talking to my buddy Arash about this the other day, we're survivors. We're going to survive. We survived during COVID, we survived during that cold, all that stuff that happened, and all it did was make us money, you know. And I feel horrible about the people that had to suffer through all the COVID and all of the cold, whatever. But, you know, I've always been ahead of the curve, and you know, as much as the system has been the way it's been, and it's like we've been attacked and everything else, I still find a way to make it. I still find a way to get it done. You know, with the show, I found a way tonight to get the show done. I didn't think I was going to be able to. I don't know if I have enough people. I found a way to get it done. I found a way to continue to grow and make money from my business. I found a way to continue to support the show and not have to take money from my other business to keep this afloat. You know, because people are kind enough to help out and do what they got to do. But you know, if you feel like the gentleman that was talking about how he felt like he was used and tossed aside, make it. No matter how old you are, make something of yourself. Never give up. And just because those people didn't do the right thing by you doesn't mean that you can't do the right thing by yourself. Here's an example. Colonel Sanders, he was 68 years old when he finally made it. He had a bunch of failed ventures up to that point. Like, he failed over and over again. And then at the age of 68, he found the original recipe, 12 spices, whatever, and he made it. Never too late. And when God blesses you, this is a saying of a friend of mine. Chief said this the other day on Facebook. He said, when God blesses you, lose the ego. Because God's good at handing out lessons. He'll humble you real quick. And I feel sorry for people who don't believe in God. Because when your time comes, you're gonna know that there is a God. And it's not gonna be fun. You know, we're here to learn. I suffered a lot in my life. But you know what? I learned from those experiences. And I'm one of those people who doesn't keep beating my head against the wall, making that, no. I get burned. I learn from that. It's part of what IQ is the capacity to learn. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying. You have to learn from your mistakes. You get setbacks. The great pitchers in baseball, you see them give up a home run and they look at it and they see it go over the fence and then they're just like, man. All you can do is just keep throwing and eventually you strike out, the people you need to strike and you get back in the dugout. And you get your team in position to catch back up or whatever it is you got to do. You can't just give up and go, and dig the hole deeper. I see people do that all the time, too. They just throw in the towel and dig themselves a hole and fall in it. Stimulate says your dad used to scrounge the junkyards for recyclables in the Philippines when he was young. Now so he could get money for food. Now he's a retired a millionaire. Sounds like we need to talk to your dad. Sounds like I need to become friends with him. Yep. Clever Conquistador says, yeah, I say that to people all the time. I say that to people all the time. God humbles. I know he did me after a car accident and losing my fiance. I found out real quick. I've definitely gone over longer than I was planning on tonight. And in a few minutes here, I'm going to jump off. But I just felt compelled to say that. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Glad I could be here with you. I'm sorry, my hair's a mess. I've just been... Oh my God. But... Just been trying to make it. I don't give up. I don't stop. Cryptidville says that's what I did. Picked up my stuff and went in a totally different direction, doing my own thing. Well, you know what? Cheers to you, sir. I hope that everything works out for you, And I'm sorry that happened to you. I've never been the kind of person to just use people and discard them because karma's real. And it'll get you. Yep. I see people just use people and throw them over their shoulder like an empty beer can. It's ridiculous. It's not the way to be. I've also been the living embodiment of karma, too, if you know what I mean. Stimulate. There's always opportunity for those who want it. Too many people these days think they're above hard work. Absolutely. Believe me. They want $15 an hour to hand you french fries. Okay, here's what I'm going to say about that. I've worked fast food, okay? I've been in the service industry. I've worked fast food. I've also waited tables. I've bussed tables, and I've washed dishes. Going home and walking home wet from washing dishes, dang near getting pneumonia. Bagging groceries. I got fired from bagging groceries. I'll tell you what happened. There was this really heavy set lady, and she was always giving me crap about how the way I bagged her groceries. Of course, remind you, I was a 16-year-old punk kid, and I had an attitude. And I told her, I said, you could just bag them yourself because, you want me to stack everything a certain way so you have less bags to carry, but you buy, enough food for Grant's army. Okay, lady. So, you want me to stuff all this stuff in there. I think you have enough food. Maybe you could eat less. So, I looked at the cashier and she was all like, yeah, you might want to go talk to the boss. And I did. And he was like, sorry, you're fired, blah, 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 whatever. I got paid like $4.25 an hour at that job. That was minimum wage, because those are starter jobs. Those are jobs that when you first enter the workforce, those are like entry level jobs, and people now want to get paid $15 an hour to do entry level jobs. At one time, I had 3 jobs. I worked 3 jobs. Yep. I worked as a busboy. I worked at Dairy Queen, and I had the job bagging groceries, which is why I didn't care. I just was like, who cares, and I quit. But yeah, 3 jobs is hard to do. It's very hard to do. And I worked 2 jobs. Always had at least 2 jobs. I worked at a shortstop where I served burgers and fries out of the drive-through window. And I worked at a Taco Bell. And me and this other guy, Red, were working at the shortstop on the east side. We got into a fight with 3 guys in a car that threw French fries back at us. And so we went outside and we beat the crap out of them and got fired. Yeah. Years later, in that same shopping center, that became one of my clients. And I ended up having that as one of my early accounts, doing security there. And me and Scorpion had a very funny incident there with a guy who got really high and took a dump on a guy's car in the Golden Chick drive-thru. Golden Chick is a fried chicken joint here in Texas. And it was right across from that particular shortstop. And I remember the police officer having to grab a water hose to spray this individual down before they arrested him. And they sprayed, and I remember thinking, wow, I remember that same spigot with the water hose or whatever, and they literally had to spray blood and teeth out of the drive-through from what we had, that big fight we had. So, but 20 years later, I was working, and this guy took a dump on somebody's car in a drive-thru. It was funny. Not if you're the guy that it happened to, but it was hilarious to me. But, yeah, it's weird. Anyways, folks, we all do what we got to do. Good night.